Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to our very special Friday the 13th broadcast with a difference. Because today, for one time only, or at least for the first time, the WOO crew from Freaky Friday, they join forces, they clash, shall we say, with the guys from the Paranormal Portal. So far, we've got one of them here, but one is better than none. And of course, I have got my very good friends, the gentlemen that make up the WOO crew with me, Scotty, Joe. 5 hours, gentlemen. 5 hours of paranormal, supernatural, high strangeness, UFO, cryptozoology, and a new running of the sheeple. They beckon, they lie in front of us. 5 hours. I can't wait to get into this, but it only seems like 2 minutes ago that I was over on the Paranormal Portal, another show here on tfrlive.com, and of course it comes up right after Freaky Friday. And I was a guest on there. It doesn't feel like long at all ago, maybe, I don't know, a couple of weeks, but it was, I think it was back in January, Brent, right? Around January time, maybe? Even
it doesn't seem possible, but yeah, I suppose it was.
Yeah, I remember kind of throwing it out there. It was one of your chatters on your live stream. They said, when's the first Friday the 13th or the next one? And there it was, March, and here we are. It is very, very good to have you here. The #1 paranormal show on the network, joining the #1 abnormal show. You're looking forward to 5 hours of WOO Don, Brent. I keep calling him Don. I keep calling him Don. This is going to be a theme for the night, right? It's happened like twice already off air, so now I've done it on air.
Yes, thank you very much, David.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Very good, yeah.
You know, Clyde Lewis.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Richard. It's all...
You see, Brent, I've learned this from one of my true heroes, Clyde Lewis. I was on this show, and he called me Dave Baker, not once, but twice. Nothing like one of your heroes getting your name wrong. Not once, but twice. Not that it kind of irks me or anything.
Brent, his soul was absolutely crushed for about 3 months.
6 months. The mangina was well throbbing. Yes, indeed. But we're here. Scotty Lopez. Friday the 13th, and yours has got off to a kind of weird, noisy start, right?
Yeah, we experienced another mystery boom / rumble, whatever you want to call it. And we've been experiencing these quite often around here. And so, yeah, well, what a way to kick off Friday the 13th, you know? And then we've got like national emergencies being declared on Friday the 13th, all that good stuff. So it's just, it's pretty wild, man. Pretty wild.
It's getting bad out there. It's getting bad out there. And Joe, I know you're chomping at the bit. You were bombarding me like a virus. You were just like a cytokine storm coming at me, throwing links.
Did you just say
I got
virus?
Yeah, I got it very, very wrong. But yes, I did. What's happening in your country,
it's
dude?
Funny
Come
you
on,
say that
come
because
on.
of course, you know that. Wow, there's a horrible. Are you guys experiencing a horrible delay?
No.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right,
yeah.
I'm gonna hang up and reconnect. Cam.
No probs. You keep freezing on my end, I must admit, Joe. And this is where the cameras go wonky until Joe comes back in a moment. But while we're waiting for Joe to come back, let me just dive on over to the Wookiee cave, because there's no way we can do the 5 hours of WOO without going over to the Wookiee cave. So then, if you're over at tfrlive.com/chat, get ready for your roll call. Not too many in there tonight. I ask anyone, if you're watching on YouTube, head on over to tfrlive.com. Get 2 chat rooms for the price of none. So over there, we have Bam. We've got Carrie, Cold Brews. Oh, I should have got some of them for tonight's proceedings. We have got, who's this now? Nagawar. Freeman is in there. Trampoline. And I can't see the end of that name. And we've also got Flat Soda. And we've got people listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio apps. We're on the YouTube as well. For the first 3 hours, we'll be on the Kev Baker Show channel. And then we'll be jumping over to your channel, Brent, over at the
Yes, sir.
Paranormal Portal. So how are you doing now, Joe? Is Joe with us?
Let's see. Am I like in real time or am I lagging behind by like 10 seconds?
No, you're okay, man. You're okay.
Okay. That's good. It's because that was a pain in the butt. Anyway, so we got this coronavirus thing going, and of course the sniffles could never be more, how do we say, used as a weapon of mass destruction. I've never seen something so egregiously used, and today is a perfect example. So here I am, trying to get to the supermarket. Now I'm not talking about a Walmart or anything else. I'm just talking about, Kev, our,
Big up all Wookie and Crude M.
Now, we did have a super chat there. I'm not sure what it said, but we'll get back to it on the
Wow.
break. But yeah, on you go, Joe.
Okay. So anyway, yeah, so there it is, just trying to get there. First of all, no park, like, it's not a holiday, of course. There's no special event going on. There's nothing going on that would warrant that kind of thing except coronavirus. Now, I don't see anybody getting sick around me. I don't see anybody, I mean, outside of the normal seasonal stuff, I don't see anybody having any sort of like symptomology at all. All people go to work as usual. Everybody's taking the necessary precautions, right? So you can't get a parking spot there. Then you go in the store, and these lines, Kev, some of them, people are in line for 2 and 3 hours at Costco, which is like a warehouse wholesaler type of thing here, is people were in line for 3 hours. You can't get toilet paper because people are buying toilet paper and water like crazy. It's like, look, I don't know if they took Griff's, advice to heart, Kev. Remember, tampons and toilet paper, Joe.
I've been
Tampons
telling
and
people.
toilet paper.
I have
Well,
been telling people that story very, very often, Joe. In the days
Yeah,
that have just led
yeah.
up to this. Yep.
Well, so interestingly enough, there is like a no shite panic, and the thing is there's nobody in the community that is like running around going like, or even doing anything whatsoever that shows any sort of symptomology that would be even remotely discomfortable or uncomfortable, outside of like having just a cold or even the flu or anything like that. So I don't know, man. Something smells fishy. That's all I'm going to say. And number two, I found it interesting today that the solution, albeit logical, to have a private public partnership to combat this, it makes sense, and you want to get on top of it fast, and I get it, but nobody's being told anything about this damn thing, and it just makes it pretty frustrating because you don't know what's true or not, you don't know what's being hidden or not, you don't know anything about this. All it is trust us and trust the information stream, and it's only the government and mainstream media that control it, really. So it's a pretty unique time we're living in right now, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they've everything's going on shutdown now here in my area. I'm at Kansas. They've shut down universities around here. They shut down my brother's university. I think they shut down KU, K-State. They're closing schools. I think they just announced before we got on the air that all the schools in Shawnee County where I live, they're going to be shut down. And so, I mean, it definitely is a crazy crazy situation we're in. And now we have this declaration, this national emergency declaration, and I've been saying since all of this started, pay attention to when they start making emergency declarations, because that's going to allow them to do things that they normally wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And as far as from the whole point of view of like they can use this as a test run to test the waters and see what they can do. So it's just crazy. It's just really wild.
What do you make of it all, Brent? I mean, what you seen where you are, man?
I've never seen anything like it. I used to work in the preparedness industry for a number of years, and of course, we always talked about these ideas of what if, and get prepared, and certainly there have been a number of close calls throughout the years, like when Ebola just came, was the most recent one that I can think of, and everybody was tense about it, but there wasn't this widespread reaction. I mean, and you'd think, I don't pretend to know a lot about coronavirus, but from what I can tell, for most people, and this is 90+% of the people that could, be affected by it, it's going to be kind of like a cold, and you're going to get over it, and you're going to feel better, and then perhaps I'm misguided and misinformed, so I don't mean to speak of any authority, but I can tell you that I went to Walmart just a couple of days ago, and sure enough, the aisles look like, it looks like the day after tomorrow, the movie. So you go in there and God forbid you need toilet paper, because you're in a bad place right now. It's just horrible.
I find it interesting though, because we see these like, say, from these socialist countries, right, where you see like empty store shelves and all of that stuff. And then it's interesting to see how just something like that, all of a sudden you're seeing like empty store shelves here in the U.S. And it just shows how fragile our system really is, right? How some panic over a pandemic can completely cause a collapse of that sort, right? Yeah. And I mean, and it's not saying that like everything on the store shelves is gone, but in an emergency situation, it does show like how quick your access to food at a grocery store or supplies at a grocery store can be wiped out very quickly, and when people rely on the grocery store, it just kind of shows the importance of being prepared, right? Yeah. I jokingly, asked before the show, I was like, what's the nutritional value of toilet paper, right? I mean, because honestly, I don't get why the rush for toilet paper. It's so funny. I mean, obviously, yes, you need toilet paper, but if we were talking about a situation to where you're going to be on lockdown and you can't get to the store and you can't get food, I would think like canned goods and non-perishable, food items and things to sustain yourself would be more important than toilet paper. Newsflash, people, there are other ways to wipe your butt. There are other ways to wipe your butt, and you can also jump in the shower. I mean, it's not like not having toilet paper is like the end all, that's just gonna, it just blows my mind. It really does. It really, really does. It's like people's priorities are like,
yeah,
they need to put their priorities right and stop worrying about toilet paper and like worry about other things,
Well, hang on. Come on, Joe. You're the guy that actually had a show with the toilet paper expert. But there's a reasoning to the toilet paper and tampons ethos, isn't there?
Well, well, yeah, there is, because there's multiple uses to it. But here's the thing, right? And this is what I don't understand. The first thing you have to think of is, in a shortage situation, what do I need? What? And the best exercise, and Griff and I used to talk about this all the time, was just go into your gather your family in your living room, sit them all down on the couch, go over, throw the main breaker, sit down and say, okay, life just changed. What just changed in that instant? And start writing down the ways your life just changed as a result of loss of electricity, or kill the water main. Now what? Now what do we do? And so that's what we would use. We would go through all those scenarios so that we knew that if that happened, then what? One of the things that we learned, from the toilet paper perspective, toilet paper, not so useful, Kev, outside of like using it for kindling and everything else outside of, or maybe even, I don't know. It doesn't matter. There's 100 uses for it, but the biggest thing was with TAMP, it was, you could use it as a compression fitting if you had like a wound or things like that. It had a lot of uses because of the backing that it has on top of being absorbent. Now, but the thing with all this toilet paper, first of all, it's coronavirus. It's more like SARS, which is a respiratory illness. It's not diarrhea. It's not like you're dealing with botulism or a cholera or anything like that, where you're basically pissing out of your butt. It has nothing like that, Kev. It is absolute garbage that there's a run on toilet paper right now. And to be quite honest with you, if I'm in a shortage situation, I'll tear up old T-shirts and I'll use those and I'll wash those separately in like a freaking deep sink before I waste resources on toilet paper. I'm just saying, there's like a serious problem, in my humble opinion, with the mindset of people and their how would I say it? Their priorities.
Yes,
And the fact
exactly.
that their priorities are focused on water, which again is noble, but it's still coming out of the tap. Oh, well, it's got lead, it's got this, it's got that. Okay, look, you're not in a normal situation right now where we go, oh, well, it isn't quite pure enough yet. No, you're trying to live right now. So look, as long as it's flowing out of the tap, you're good to go. And that's the way you got to look. It's there. It's a resource. Don't waste your resources on all this bottled water that you don't. You know what I mean? This is the problem. Everybody's focused on the wrong stuff, and it's driving me nuts. But that's the way the media's driving everybody. That's what they're doing. It's crazy. It's like people are just herded this way. And that's why you have 3-hour lines at Costco and everything else. People are panicked because of a lack of information. So they just go, they do the when in wonder and in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. That's what they're beating the crap out of each other for toilet paper.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. And look, toilet paper, I guess the modern, I guess, version of toilet paper was invented in the 1920s. How did humanity survive before 1920? Oh my God!
I mean, it's
oh wow! How
unbelievable.
How did humanity survive those horrible barbaric times before the 1920s?
Who knows? Maybe toilet paper is pivotal, Kev. Kevin, Scott, and Brent, maybe toilet paper is pivotal to the life expectancy extension that we saw in the 20th century. Maybe because people started wiping their ass with toilet paper. Instead you're not like shaking each other's hand, giving each other freaking, all sorts of shit and worms and everything else. Instead, it's clean handshakes.
That's right.
See?
First rule of
I
Fight
could
Club.
be wrong here. I don't know.
Joe, the first rule of Fight Club used to be, you know, you don't talk about Fight Club, but in the age of Mandela's, first rule of Fight Club, bring your own shit roll, please. You know, bring your own. I'm telling you, dude, it's crazy.
Will do, Kev. Will do.
But no, I had a guy phone up the show the other night, and he was talking about his background in neural science. He used to work on primates, and he was talking about how he started to get alarmed when he was noticing some of the same behaviors in the victims of this as what he used to see in the primates he would test on in the lab. And I tell you, boys, you want some woo. And like I said at the time, I can't prove any of this, but he was talking about, remember the videos of people just falling down, like just whack, hitting the floor? He was talking about the potential for this virus to bind onto receptors, and then it goes into your spinal cord, travels up to the part of your brain that is also associated with Tourette's, and how that kind of lowers your kind of your norms. You do things that normally you wouldn't do. You almost can't control it. And he was saying, you think about people spitting on other people. Think about people like trying to pass this on deliberately. I mean, that's got to be like outrageous behavior. I mean, that's way kind of weird. I tell you what, it added a little bit of woo to what is a pretty serious situation. That's all I can say. Literally, Brent, the guy was talking about COVID zombies. Nearly fell off the chair, man.
I've got a guest joining us tomorrow on the show who's an author, and he has a theory about the COVID being paranormal in nature. So his name is Altias.
Well, give us a little teaser. I mean, what kind of stuff do you know about it? Oh, I'll need to tune into that, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know anything.
That's the best way to go into an interview. Blank slate, and then you're not like following a template that you've heard. It's all new information. Get your raw reaction. Oh, I'm definitely tuning into a bit of that.
That's how I face life, Kev.
Yes, and we've got voices as well, Scott.
Yeah, look, I was watching Mediker's stream the other day, and he was talking about this exact same thing that you were bringing up, Kev, about how they found coronavirus in the in the spinal fluid, you know. So it's having like an effect on people's like neurology, like their brain, almost kind of like it's having neurological effects, it seems like, from what they've been discovering in some patients in China. And then maybe that would explain a lot of the irrational behavior, the spitting, they said, you know, when we saw the footage of people that were just like falling over, that may have been a neurological thing, that they may have been falling over into a coma, you know. And so maybe there is kind of this aspect of a zombie-like behavior.
Now, nobody,
you know?
hey, nobody's seen that one coming, Scotty, right?
Hey, look, that was something I was always had in the back of my mind. Like when I saw these people just acting like just very irrationally and just like spitting on people and stuff like that. And I'm like, there's too many people doing this I could see like maybe like a disgruntled individual or something that may just like have had enough, like maybe with the way that their loved ones are being treated in the hospital or something like that, maybe lashing out or something like that. But you just saw this huge kind of wave, this phenomenon of people just like spitting and trying to infect other people. And I'm like, could this be an aspect of the virus, right? I mean, could this be a way of the virus trying to spread itself around?
Exactly, Scott.
Like
I mean, it's clever anyway, right? Because it's already able to like reproduce en masse without giving you any symptoms, you know? Does it quietly in the background. All good, working away, you know? Taking over cells, banging them out. Why not?
we see examples of this in nature. You know, I always bring up the zombie fungus that infects ants,
Oh yeah.
and then
Yeah.
and then it controls the ant's brain and tells it to climb up to a you know, a branch or something. That way it can be eaten by a bird or something like that, and then it can carry it off somewhere and spread the fungus elsewhere. You know, so I mean, that's an example of kind of these organisms that can hijack another organism's brain and take over it. And so
Hold that
I'm
thought,
totally
Scotty.
open to the
Hold that thought.
possibility.
We are on our first break already. One segment down,
Wow.
and only another 9 to go. Oh, dawdle, boys, dawdle. Don't worry about it. We'll be right back. 5 hours of WOO. Freaky Friday meets the Paranormal Portal. There we go, gentlemen. Yes, we're still on the break, but tell us the name of this guest you're getting on, Brent. That sounds really interesting.
His name is Al Tyas, Tyas, and he's an author of 2 books on the paranormal. He's an incredible researcher. He's a retired paranormal investigator, and he's now writing books. And I don't know what he's got to correlate this with, but it sounds really interesting.
It sounds really good. And I'll be, what time's that on tomorrow then, Brent?
7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, of course.
Awesome. Sounds good, Scotty boy. Sounds good. And next week on the Kev Baker show, you want some woo. I've got the guy that was part of the research team, he liaised with the X-Files team when they were making season 1 of the show because of his, you know, his role in the kind of black ops, these crazy kind of men in black stories that we talk about all the time. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is going to be on the show. Oh, yes.
Oh man, guys, Doc Miller is just the cream of the crop, the a numero uno of people to converse with when it comes to all things
Converse,
woo.
dude.
He
I
is
compare.
the godfather
I
of woo.
compare it to like riding a wild stallion on amphetamines, because he's just one of these guests. You don't know
what a
what
pleasure.
you're getting next. I can't wait. Really can't wait. Yeah. So that'll be a good one. I'm not sure of the date, and I might be having Chris, or is it Cherie Geo on the show as well, Brent? Yes. Look forward to that. And when we come back after the break, I think we've got a special offer from Chris and Cherie, so I'll shout that out. But yeah, 5 hours. Think you can manage it, Brent, Scott?
Oh, sure.
I'm sure we can. And when we come back after the break, you know, we'll get into the Friday the 13th stuff. We'll start shifting into the good woo. You know, I can imagine by the end of this, we'll be thinking, damn, we still had stuff to talk about. I get that feeling.
Isn't it always the case?
Yep.
Yes, I've got a good story when we get back that will kind of shift us from Corona into the woo, and then we can start to branch out and explore from there. So.
Nice. Branch out like a virus, Scott.
Yes, a virus.
Well, the woke crowd it's a matter of time before they delve into this realm. I'm just saying, Scotty. So choose your words wisely.
Yep. Don't you worry, Joe. If there's any woke people to be taken on, I'll go first, right? I love it.
Your toxicity will certainly do wonders to counteract
It
the
precedes
wokery
me.
that's afoot.
Yeah, it precedes me. It truly does. I'm surprised I've not been kicked off Twitter yet. In fact, I'm quite disappointed I haven't been kicked off Twitter yet.
It's coming,
I
don't you
can't
worry.
be doing it right. I'll need to have a word with one of these.
I just haven't flagged you enough yet.
I wouldn't put it past you, Joe. So we're getting ready to go back to the network.
How dare you?
Yeah, there she is, man. There she is. She's
How
live.
dare you?
Yes, indeed. Here we go. Here we go. Beam us up. Energize. There he is. The Freaky Friday Wookiee is in the house, and we are ready for part 2 of a 10-part special broadcast. Yes, 5 hours of woo with Freaky Friday. And we've got Brent here from the Paranormal Portal. Joe is he's hiding in the background. You're
You
like,
know, that's an interesting way of breaking it up. I've never done that before. That was cool. 10-part. I like it.
something new. You know, we
Yeah.
can chalk them off as we go. But Friday the 13th, I know, Scott, you've got a story that you're going to bring us in a minute, but let me just quickly ask Brent, you know, what's your thoughts on that, man? We've discussed this every Friday the 13th because the show falls on it. And I think we kind of, speaking for the guys here a little, but they can correct me if I'm wrong, we always talk about if you're somebody that's worried about a particular date, Brent, the chances are, you know, if it's the 13th or whatever date you associate that bad luck with, if you worry about it too much, it's going to come and bite you in the backside, right?
Amen to that.
Absolutely. You know, I firmly believe that we manifest our reality. I really do. And I think anytime you're preoccupied with something like that, you're feeding it energy and you're creating an experience that sooner or later is actually going to pop up in your life. So if you're really sure that Friday the 13th are horrible days where bad things happen, you'll probably be right. So I firmly believe that, you know, we are in control of our experience. And if you just, you know, take it in stride, have a good day.
Yep. I totally agree.
I see World Bigfoot Radio in the chat room. Is that Big Don?
That's the Duke.
Is that the Duke? The Duke, the Don, the Brent. No, I'm really confused. Scott,
Yeah,
take
there's
it
a lot
away,
of
man.
confusion going on here.
Damn, dude.
It's just us.
How dare you?
Oh, and her as well. Damn. The ghost of Greta.
No, yeah, look, I totally agree with Brent. I'm on the same thing. Like, I think if you put your intent into something, then you can manifest it, right? Like, last week, whenever I was talking about how my brother brought that witchcraft book and everybody kind of started losing their mind, you know, in the chat, they're like, no, you know, and I'm like, look, he bought it as a novelty item. He doesn't actually.
Scott, remember I had my good friend, the witch, on the show? You seen the grief I took for that one, dude. You knew that witchcraft book was going to get you in trouble, right?
I knew it. That's why I brought it up. I you know, that's exactly why I brought it up, you know. And look, it's all about intent, right? If you crack open that book and you start believing in it, then you're giving it power, right? But if you buy it as a novelty item and you're like, look, it's just a novelty item. It's nothing, and you don't give it any power, then it's just a book. It's just a book that's sitting there, you know. So you know, I think it's with anything. It's your intent. What you intend to do with it is where that is. And yeah, like I said, it's the same with the Friday the 13th stuff and all of that, and kind of like these superstitions and things like that. If you're focused on Friday the 13th being this bad luck day and you're constantly thinking about it, well, then you're going to manifest that and it's going to be a bad luck day for you. But if you just go on thinking, well, look, it's just another day, and you don't put any of that intent on it, well, then it is just going to be another day.
Ooga booga.
Yeah, you know, like Brent said, you manifest your own reality, and if that's the reality that you're focusing on, well, then that's what's going to take place, you know. So
Absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So what's your story, Scott?
So I've got a very interesting story that I just came across here on a Mysterious Universe, and it has to do with a little bit of corona mixed with some nice woo here, some psychic phenomena, and this could lead us into some interesting rabbit holes to go down, I think, by the time we get done with this here. But it says the coronavirus was predicted by the blind mystic Baba Vanga, who said it would be all over us. says Baba Vanga, who was the blind mystic who allegedly predicted 9/11 as well as Brexit, also foresaw the coronavirus outbreak. In fact, one of her followers has come forward saying that the Balkan Nostradamus predicted the deadly virus, claiming that it would be all over us. Neshka Stefanova Robeva went to visit Vanga in 1996, just before she passed away, and explained what happened during the visit. Aunt Vanga predicted when I visited her years ago, Neshka, the corona will be all over us. I did not realize what those words meant then. She went on to say that the word corona means guardianship in Bulgarian and is connected to Russian leadership within the country, so she assumed that Vanga's warning meant that Bulgaria would be controlled by the Russians.
Russians done it.
Now. Yeah, the Russians did it. Dang Russians. Yes, she says, only now did I realize that it was the Chinese flu. May it go away easily, Robeva said. In addition to what she said to Robeva, Vanga mentioned the virus back in the 1970s when she predicted that all around the end of the first decade of the century, there would be an epidemic of a new deadly disease that would spread throughout the world and kill many people. Ooga booga.
Oh yeah, see this. This is fear mongering, Mr. Baker.
Definitely, man. Get the alarm on and everything. But see if I was Scott. See if I was like him, like sitting there, and we were thinking to ourselves, right, guys, let's leave some kind of prophecies for the future, right? I mean, come on, you're going to throw a plague out there at some point, right? You're probably going to throw in a big fire. Oh, I see a fire in the sky, or
I think that if the prophecy said something that specific, that would be a little concerning.
Man drink bat soup. Man drink bat soup. Man called Eugene goes to Wuhan and drinks bat soup.
See?
Let's dive in, because when she said this in the 1970s, she even said that the virus would start in China. So that's getting a little specific there. Adding to that, she noted that a vaccine would take an entire year to develop.
Oh, no, that's a pretty good kind of add-on. I'll give you that. Yeah.
As amazing as her prediction was, she wasn't the only one who foresaw the deadly virus affecting the world. Nostradamus also predicted possibly the coronavirus, as one of his passages read, "The great plague of the maritime city will not cease until there be avenged the death of the just blood."
He's even called like Nostravagnus. The marine city that sits on a hill.
Shall not eat of the Twinkie until your milk is gone.
The hell does that mean? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know what he means. What Nostradamus is talking about here, about avenged the death of the just blood, condemned for a price without crime, of the great lady outraged by pretense. Yeah, I don't know what you're going on about there, but so it's hard to imagine someone in the year 1555 predicting a deadly outbreak of an epidemic that would affect the planet centuries later, but it seems as though that's exactly what he did. Even Stephen Hawking made a startling remark several years ago when he admitted that he was worried that genetically modified viruses were artificially created would somehow break out of the lab and mow people down.
Well, I mean, it wasn't just Stephen Hawking. That's like everybody.
I mean, everybody was kind of worried about.
We're always worried about that.
It's about that. It's like, there's about 15 Hollywood movies that have prophesized this, It's just
Anyone watched Contagion again recently?
No.
I'm sick. I have. Oh, big time. Yep. Binge watching the Hot Zone as well. Bit of Ebola thrown in there. I can't get enough of it, guys. Come on. Never a dull moment in the Corona apocalypse, Scotty boy. Telling you.
No, never a dull moment. I mean, I mean, what do you guys think about like Baba Vanga? Think she's the real deal?
I think we've talked about her a lot, and she does seem to have things that coincide with the big events, right? That's why she keeps coming up from time to time. You've had Mother Shipton over here in the UK as well. There's been a lot of these people over the ages who make these claims that they can see future events, and I'm open to it. You know, think of remote viewing and things like that. It's literally a science. I can't do it myself, but I'm very open to it, guys. Very, very open to it.
Chronovisor. Who?
Yeah.
Where is a chronovisor when you need it?
I think Andy Bashago stole it, and he's
I'm
not
sure
giving
he
it
did.
back to anyone. I'm quite
No,
angry at that.
you got a good point there, though, Kev. You know, it doesn't. I like your point about the remote viewing. You know,
Yeah.
I think you're right, and it fits. And
even-
it doesn't
even us
matter
on a
who
small
the
scale,
source
Joe.
is or who's presenting the information. Basically, it goes like this: don't shoot the messenger. You know.
Joe, think about this as well. I mean, maybe this hasn't happened to me in a long time, and I think that's something to do with the technology. But remember when you would think about phoning somebody, or somebody would pop into your head, and then the phone would go, and it would be them. I mean, that in itself is us. Although we don't know how to like.
What do they call that? Alpha waves or something?
I'm not sure, but it's like a premonition. You know, if we were able to harness that and control it, and maybe look forward further.
Yeah, it's like I'm sending you my alpha waves, Kev.
Like precognition.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I think people do have this ability. You know what I mean? I think there are people out there who can like foresee events in the future and all of that. And then I think there are people out there. See, it's tough because, like, say with the Nostradamus stuff, a lot of the stuff that people like refer, it's very, it's like they read into it what they want. You know what I mean? It's not very. His stuff isn't like super specific, but if you wanted to fit it to something, you could do it. You know, and it's really easy to like take an event and then fit it to a lot of Nostradamus things and go, oh, look, he predicted that. And I think you see that with a lot of these kind of these people that they say, you know, put out these predictions and stuff like that. So it is hard. It is hard. Are people just kind of wedging events into things? Or were they really predicting it? It's hard to tell. I mean, the Baba Vanga stuff, I mean, if she was pretty specific like that, then I'm like, okay. I mean, you know, if she said, hey, there's going to be a virus that comes out of China and it's going to take a year for them to make a vaccine.
When
then
did vaccines first come into being, though? I mean, how did you word that? The vaccine thing.
Well, I mean, if she was making this prediction in the 70s, and obviously vaccines were already
Yeah. Sorry, I thought she was back further than that, dude. Yeah.
No. Yeah, this was in the 70s that she said, you know, that there would be a virus that comes out of China and it would take a year to make a vaccine. I mean, that's a pretty specific thing if that's what she really said. I mean, we're just
that's
going
what
by.
they say, right? I mean, that's what I've heard been said. It'll take a year or so if they can ever make one. So if she said it, we'll give her it. Absolutely. You know?
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Haven't a lot of the viruses come out of China, though? I mean, like, wasn't the bird flu from China as well?
Yeah, you find it's the perfect conditions. You know, they've had the SARS release as well, MERS. And in the past, stuff has got out of these labs. And that's not speculation. I mean, that's been admitted to in the past. You can go check that up. It was in the early 2000s. How this thing all got going and what's really happening, you know, who knows? But China, definitely. I don't like to single out China when it comes to the whole topic because we know that America are at it, Britain are at it. France are at it.
Absolutely, dude.
They're
We're
all at
definitely
it.
the pot that's calling the kettle black. But
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, Kev, we look like, well, we interpret China as the Chinese interpret us, basically, because we are what they are to us, or whatever. You know what I mean? And so all I can say is that they're secretive, we're secretive. They have accidents, we have accidents. And we're not forthcoming with our information when that happens, just like they aren't, and we get upset when it affects us, and they get upset when we go over and it affect their lives, it just, oh man, this is a tough situation all around.
I wonder what
it really truly is.
I wonder what kind of Chinese woo there is. Their kind of mythology.
They've got to have some.
Well, they've got pyramids,
woo, man.
right? They say that they've got a pyramid over there that's bigger than the Great Pyramid. It was
Just think about all of those mountains you can explore. Oh man, I can't imagine all the giants that used to live up in there, dude, and their crystal mountains. Yes.
Yeah, they got a version of the Bigfoot over there. It's called the Yaren.
Oh, I was going to
Is
ask
that
you.
true?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
Oh.
anything that you know happening over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of claims of it. They actually have a government-funded agency that goes out and looks for proof of it. It's called the Yaren. It's basically their Bigfoot or their Yeti. And there's been claims also that these Yarens sometimes abduct people. There's one woman from some very remote province, and she lived up in the village. Excuse me. In the mountains, and she was abducted and taken away, kidnapped by this Yaren, and she was held prisoner and taken advantage of. She was able to get free and came back to her village and produced a child. And this child
I knew it. I knew that's why they were doing it.
Now we've got super chat there.
My son had it and is fine now.
Wow, Rachel. Wow. So Rachel's boy actually had it, and he's fine now. That is really good to hear. Rachel, I would love for you to phone into the show on Monday.
Yeah, that would be great to get some feedback.
Yeah, because we're not hearing a lot about that at all. But I found this here, Brent, the Yeren, man monkey. It's sometimes called as a legendary creature. On Freaky Friday, that means it was once real then. Said to reside in a remote, mountainous, forested regions of western Hubei. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, but she produced this kid, and there's actually a video. Just look for a man Bigfoot hybrid or something. There's a video on YouTube, allegedly, which shows the footage of this child, and he looks like, he looks very monkey-like or simian-like, more so than, he looks like a melding. He apparently was never able to master speech, hated wearing clothing, even up in the cool mountain air, and was had very long arms, the sloping brow, kind of a pointed head, and the footage is out there, allegedly, but it's really compelling.
Wow.
I'll see if I can find a link to that.
I'm kind of blown away by all this one. The Bigfoot's everywhere, Scott. Bigfoot is everywhere.
Yeah.
I was talking with Ben Emlyn Jones the other night, Scotty. He was talking about a story where potentially somebody had shot a Bigfoot, in the body of one, but then the Men in Black or somebody came, and everything gone. Nothing to see here. Yeah, nothing to see here. Move along. Keep calm and carry on squatching.
And hey, I mean, we were just talking about the Men in Black, right? Last week. They always seem to kind of pop up during these weird sort of, encounters, whether it be UFOs or cryptid sightings or anything like that. People get a visit from the Men in Black, and it's like, wow, what's going on with that? But as far as the Bigfoot stuff, man, I mean, yeah, there's definitely, it's all over the world. I mean, like you said, you got the Yeren in China. Was he known as the Yowie in Australia, I believe?
Right.
The
Yep.
Yowie,
And then
mate. G'day, mate. I'm the Yowie.
Boy, when you start looking into cryptids in Australia,
The
there's some
Bunyip.
prick.
Remember the Bunyip?
Yeah, the Bunyip was crazy.
You ever heard of that
And-
one, Brent? The Bunyip or the Bunyip?
Yeah.
That's a weird
Bunyips,
one.
drop bears is another one. Yeah.
Well, the drop bears is good, but the Bunyip here, where you see this thing? The Bunyip is a large mythical creature from the Australian Aboriginal mythology, said to lurk in swamps, billabongs. What a word. Love it. Only in Australia do you get a billabong. And then creeks, riverbeds, and waterholes. The Bunyip was part of traditional Aboriginal beliefs and stories throughout Australia, while its name varied according to tribal nomenclature. In his book in 2001, writer Robert Holden identified at least 9 regional variations of the creature, known as the Bunyip, or the Bunyip, sorry, across Aboriginal Australia. So not just was there one Bunyip, there was different types of Bunyips.
Jeez.
Insane, isn't it? It really is. The origin of the word Bunyip has been traced to the Wemba Wemba, or the Walgaya language of the Aboriginal people of Victoria in southern or southeastern Australia. And we've actually got somebody of Aboriginal roots in the chat room, Luna. A big shout out to Luna over there on YouTube. And Mammoth, she went to stay with the Aboriginal people as part of her studies. I don't know, I'm getting drawn towards Australia these days, Brent. It's almost like an untapped mine of woo, sitting away down under, you know?
Yeah, there's a bunch, and there's regional claims, and there's claims that cover the whole the whole landmass over there. It's and even their natural normal fauna is incredibly deadly. So I imagine their cryptids are absolutely horrifying.
Probably like beer and cricket as well. They're probably typically Australian cryptids. Probably have a Barbie kicking out on the beach and things like that. Remember we watched the kangaroos fighting on here one night? I tell you, the animals down in Australia, they just even act Australian. They've got a bit of an attitude to them, right? I think they do anyway. They've got a bit of comedy value to them. We're almost on another break. 1 hour is almost done, guys, already. I mean, that's even quick by Freaky Friday and Paranormal Portal standards when we're on our own. But before we go to the break, Brent was telling me earlier on about an offer that we are running on or through Truth Frequency Radio. Now, I'm trying to scroll back so I can find it here. Where are we? Maybe you can drop it in there again, Brent.
Sure. Yeah, it's an offer for 2-for-1 on iLife.com. And if you should go to iLife.com, you can order 2 bottles and use the code BTVTribe, and you should get a second bottle for free.
Nice. So if you head to iLife.com, you can take advantage of that, and it's BTV Tribe. There you go. So I urge you all, check that out. Now, when we go on to Paranormal Portal tonight, obviously, if you're listening via TFR, you don't have to worry about anything. But Brent, have you got everything chilled out in the background, all set up in the studio for us to do the big move? You know, we drive across the continent, we get into your studio in 3 minutes, that kind of thing.
Sure, we should be able to make it fine.
Super chat.
WV
Ooh.
believes in Bigfoot.
Oh, you know, I don't find many people that are adverse to Bigfoot. It's not one of those kind of things where people go, oh, no, I don't know, I don't believe in that. Maybe years ago, but not so much now. What do you think?
I think that it's become a lot more open topic, and I think it's because of and the show takes a lot of hits, but the show Finding Bigfoot, I think the one thing it really did was really make that discussion happen for a lot of people that hadn't talked about it, and so I think more and more people are getting on the bandwagon, and more people are coming out of the woodwork saying, yeah, actually I saw something too. So it's crazy.
Now before we go to the break, Luna, talking to somebody in the chat room, says there's a big pond near me fed from underground, and feeling there is not good. I think a bunyip or visitors live there. Oh, indeedy. Yes, what lurks beneath the surface, boys, eh? Indeed. Now we're almost on the break, so you're going to have 3 minutes. Rush away, get yourself a coffee, cup of tea. Maybe you're having an alcoholic beverage tonight. I don't know. Lucky you. But we'll be back after the break with 4 more hours of woo as the Freaky Friday clash with the Paranormal Portal. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to TFRlive.com. There we go. Now then, where's this link you sent me, Brent? What's this that you're showing us here?
That's the actual video of allegedly of the hybrid between the Yaren and the woman.
Okay.
As well as many others, have been commenting about this hybrid man that was found in China. This footage is from a province there. What you're looking at is being described all over the web as a Chinese hybrid man.
Whoa.
So the story goes that the boy's mother had claimed she was kidnapped by a Yeti.
Wow, I just walked into that. Holy crap.
This creature raped her repeatedly before she was able to escape back to her small village. 9
That
months
thing
later,
raped
she
her?
gave birth to this strange...
No, his father,
Oh.
she was raped by a Yeren, a Bigfoot.
Oh, and then that's her spawn?
Yes.
Yeah. Look at that.
Ooh.
That's a big boy.
Not only that, but you could tell, I mean, definitely different.
Yep.
9 months later, she gave birth to this strange boy who grew up to be really big. Although he was never able to speak a
Whoa.
language, he did gain a mild understanding of what people were saying to him. He lived to be 33 years old, and because he was kept hidden in a small village, not much is known about him. So what is he exactly? One explanation was that he was born with microcephaly, which is a neurodevelopmental disorder which causes abnormal head
Microcephaly.
growth, poor brain function, and a shorter life expectancy.
Whoa.
Skeptics who believe this explanation go on.
That.
No, because microcephaly would have just affected the skull. I don't think it would have
to
affected
say
his
the mother
height.
was
I
so
can't
ashamed
imagine.
of having a retarded baby. She made up the entire story about being raped by a Bigfoot creature. The problem with this explanation, however, is it doesn't explain the sheer size of this hybrid-looking man.
That's what I'm saying.
As previous cases of microcephaly had never been very tall. In addition,
Right.
Whoa. That's pretty cool, man. I've never seen that before, Brent. That is pretty cool.
Yeah, me neither. That's top-notch stuff right there, man.
And that looks like a top Aussie bloke. Look at him. Only an Aussie would
Oh,
get away
yeah.
with wearing a hat like that.
No, but you know what, Kev? That's almost like Carmel, Maine, only on the Bigfoot side.
Yeah.
Mm.
What's your... Well, I'll get your take when we come back, Joe, on the whole Bigfoot thing. Yeah, we've got the wild men over here in the UK.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Florida, Skunk Ape, or Florida Man. One of the two. They're both cryptids.
The Woodwose, the Woody Wassa. Yeah, you guys got that stuff.
We get a lot of dogmen reports as well, or hellhound type stuff. But it's pretty woo central over here, man. I don't know if it's the ley lines, the people, the weather, all of the above. I don't know.
It's in the water.
Yeah. I've got another article we can get into when we get back about
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I'll be right back, gentlemen.
No problem, Brent. No problem. And a big shout out to everyone out there in the chat room. Rachel, yeah, super chat. Oh, now I need to fix your camera again, Scotty.
Wah.
In fact, I'll just leave them off just now until Brent comes back, and then it'll kick back.
Yeah. I can just cut my.
Yeah,
my cam
it'll kick
for a
back
second.
into place. It'll be good. It'll be good
There
to
we
go. Good to go. Yes, indeedy. Well, if that's the first hour down, I was thinking, 5 hours, woof, could be a long one.
Yeah.
Nah, already it's going to be like one of those. Remember back in the day when we would hang out with Popeye and Chris and Cherie and Chris Everard would be there, and
Oh man.
remember
Now
those
those were
shows?
conversations that went by like 5 hours and 5 minutes. We entered
Oh,
time warps
it was crazy cool, but we're going
like
back.
intellectual wormholes.
Here we go. We are back. We are live.
How dare
Are we
you?
really?
Oh, yes, I always dare. And it is hour number 2 of our Woo-a-thon. Yes, we are going. There it is. We're going
Very
full
nice, very
woo-woo
nice.
tonight. We've got Brent Thomas here from the Paranormal Portal. He'll be back in a moment. We've got Scotty Lopez. We've got Joe Joseph. And before Scott gives us another story, Joe, we were talking about the Bigfoot, the Yeren, as it's called over in China. I mean, what's your take on this? I mean,
Dude, totally real, totally real. Now, whether or not where they come from, how are they here, how they interface, I have no idea, Kev. All I know is that there's too much evidence to support their existence, whether past, present, and like who now that article that we saw during the break, Kev, that was unbelievable. And if I had any lingering doubts, they are totally and completely destroyed with that article of or those pictures of the Bigfoot offspring.
yeah, anyone out there? Brent, what's the name of that video so that people can search it?
Hybrid man found in China.
I'm asking you, and it's blatantly on my own screen. Yeah, hybrid man in China. I've never seen that before, but that was quite compelling stuff. It really was. Never thought about that before. I've often wondered if maybe some of the people that go missing in weird circumstances, not
You
all
know
of
that
them,
they're getting totally and completely freaking sexually abused when
by a
when they are
Wookiee. Yeah, well,
by a Wookiee. That's what they do.
and that's the thing with these cases, though. I mean, you can't like attribute all of them to one thing. But I definitely think you have to put the Wookiee out there. The Sasquatch, whatever you want to call it. What do you
Call
make?
him Wookiee Weinstein.
Have you ever looked at that angle, Brent, the missing 411 type stuff, and maybe a cryptid angle to it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think that at least a good portion of the cases, I think really has to have some kind of element of that in there. And I think that there's a reason, like, how David Paulides talks about, there's many cases where the dogs refuse to track.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't want to, it's just that they won't. Now, in many Bigfoot and Dogman situations, when people have pets around, they're normally ferocious dogs will be found cowering under beds. And so whatever these creatures are, dogs have a real root fear of them, a base fear that they just can't overcome. So I think that in those cases that might be what's going on, is they're catching the scent of one of these cryptids and they're going, nope, I'm not going down that trail.
Exactly, and there's been, I mean, in a lot of these Bigfoot reports, or Yetis, whatever you want to call them, there always seems to be like a pungent odor or scent that's associated with them as well, and so obviously, if you got dogs or whatever trying to track people, they're going to pick up on that scent. And they're obviously are like, no, we don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
We were reading, I think, like these really kind of crazy Reddit stories, talking about the 411 and the kind of the weird things that occur in the forests and stuff. And we talk about a possible interdimensional aspect to the Bigfoot as well. And one of the stories that kind of pops out in my mind is of this guy who said that he was walking along in the woods and he basically kind of walked through a portal because everything around him changed, like the entire environment and everything. And he saw like a hand, like a hairy hand come out and try to grab him, and he walked backwards, and he basically walked back into our reality.
Wow.
So it makes you wonder if there are like these natural sort of energy vortexes or something that may exist out in the woods, and you could just like accidentally stumble upon them whenever you're hiking or you're walking through these trails, and just accidentally kind of walk through one of these portals, and next thing you know, you're
somewhere else. Yeah.
you're in Bigfoot's realm. Whatever dimension they exist in, you're on their world, or you're in their existence. And I think that's a total possibility. Remember that, Kev, when we were reading that Reddit article about the guy that walked through a portal in the forest?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And he saw like a hairy hand come out and try to grab him. And
that was the night we done the hairy hand show.
Yeah, and then he stepped back into our realm. So it seems like he phased into another existence, or he phased into another dimension where maybe that's where the Bigfoot lives.
There's a road.
That's where they're from.
There's a road over here, and we've been talking about haunted places in Scotland. And it's my brother. He's a delivery driver, and I think it's up on Skye, the Isle of Skye, or on the way to Skye. And Joe, you'll like that little island, right? Because they keep on finding dinosaurs up there. And
right?
I know that you look at the mud fossil stuff, and listen, with some of the features up there, I could be on board with the kind of stuff that gets spoken about there, but that's another thing altogether. But this road that my brother was traveling on, allegedly haunted, and one day he was driving along it, and he seen a car sitting in the lay-by up ahead of him, and it was an old-fashioned kind of car. Nobody sitting in it, and then all of a sudden it pulled out behind him, and I can't remember if it overtook him, but something really weird happened anyway, where there was like just something not right. The car just disappeared, or I can't remember the story exactly, but it's almost like that phasing in and out again. And that one there, it's almost like a replay, something that's almost like replaying in time.
Like it happened at that place on another timeline, maybe?
Yeah, people have reported this thing numerous times, Joe. That's the thing, that, I mean, you get hauntings and things, but when you hear about the same thing from independent people on one lonely stretch of, barren road, I don't know. There's got to be something to that, because
here's what I got to be honest with you. Here's what I'm confident of. What I'm confident of, when all is said and done, and we're given the answers to all the questions, right? I'm sure it's going to be like nothing we even had any remote inkling of. I mean, it's going to be so wacky and like this whole timeline thing is going to be totally rubbish, because the real thing behind it's going to be so much more spectacular, or so much more in left field compared to where we're focused on. I don't know if it's some sort of echo or some sort of
I think it's like a mirrorverse, dude. I think it's like the
maybe a
antiverse.
mirrorverse, or like what happens when you erase a hard drive and do it over again.
Yeah, you defrag it. You never entirely get rid of it.
Yeah, like a ghost image of what was there before. I don't know.
That's a really good way of thinking of it, Joe.
There's so many possibilities.
Yeah, because I mean that is actually a really good way of thinking about it, because if you take a hard drive, you can do forensics on it, and even if you've reformatted it and installed Windows over it, you can find traces of the previous install. Like you said, it's like a shadow copy, and
Scott, even the process of doing that, right? The hard drive, the computer heats up, but that information's literally getting converted back into energy.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It's weird. Nothing goes away. So these replays that we're talking about there, this potential for another verse right beside us, I think it's more likely than unlikely at this stage. I think we're just waiting for the scientists to catch up, right?
Like you're stacking realities on top of each other, and whichever one on top is the current one that's being read or accessed, but there's like layers underneath.
What do you think to that, Brent?
I think that's absolutely true. I think it's very true. We just had getting back to what Scotty was talking about, we had a person call into the show or write into the show, and she sent in a story about her experience out in the woods, and they had found this place that wasn't supposed to exist, and they went up there. I think they were looking, they were like ghost hunting or whatever, and I'm paraphrasing this, so please forgive me if it's not quite completely factually accurate, but the details are in that they got out of the car, and as they walked towards this area, I think it was an old cemetery, and there was this like luminescent fog on the ground, and it was kind of slowly coming towards them. There was no wind that night or anything like that, but it came towards them. So they popped out their flashlights and shined it on the fog. As soon as the light hit the fog receded. It like went away from the light, like it was an intelligent or, had a purpose. And they shut off their lights. It would come back down and would just drift towards them. They turn on their lights. It would retract back. And so for some reason, this fog seemed to have a sentience. It knew to avoid the light or wanted to avoid the light. And they did this a couple more times, and they thought that was really neat. And then finally, they decided to stride forward into it. And it was a couple that strode forward into the fog, and another couple stayed behind. And they said as soon as they went into the fog, suddenly they entered into this different place. Where they were was on an incline in a hill with woods and thickets and stuff. And suddenly they were standing on a grassy plain. And they couldn't understand what the hell just happened. And so they looked around, they were in disbelief, and they walked back through the fog the way they came, and suddenly they were back on the hillside. And I guess they had this experience several times. Like they went back to this place over and over and over, and it was accessed by a way that shouldn't have been possible. But this one guy who was a hunter knew of this place somehow. And I thought it was an amazing story, but it does speak to the fact that, this person experienced basically a portal.
Wow. Is that not similar to the story with the hand, Scott? Was there not like a mist?
Yeah, well, the person who described that said that it almost looked like I guess the best way to describe it would be on a really hot day and you see like the heat coming off the road, how it like distorts the air. It's
Sure.
like a wavy kind of that was kind of what it looked like as he walked towards it or into it. Like he didn't notice it until he was actually already walking into it, and it was like, so it wasn't something that was immediately noticeable until you were right up on it. And then by that time it was too late because he was already walking through it. And, he said that the entire environment changed around him. It went from the woods or the forest he was walking into where he said it felt like a high humidity, heavily dense, like jungle environment that he had walked into, almost like a prehistoric Jurassic sort of era or kind of environment that he walked into, and then the hairy hand came out and tried to grab him, and he walked backwards. He went the way he came, and then next thing you know, he was back in our reality, or so it was like, that's pretty crazy. It's pretty wild.
Makes you wonder how many of these people that go missing, that's the story they would tell us, Even more bizarre, some of them. Remember the one where there was a theory,
sounds
Scott?
like he was...
Remember the theory was a pterodactyl might have came down and got him because something lifted him?
Wow.
Yeah, what if... Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it. What if a pterodactyl came through the portal, came through and then into our...
If these realities are stacked, although we can't conceptualize it with our bags of cholesterol and water, then theoretically, hypothetically, that Jurassic period's playing out right now. Everything playing out at once, right? So why not? If the conditions are right,
And I don't know if Brent ever heard the story, so I'll just kind of recap it for him. So there was this guy and his wife. This happened in, I think it was Yosemite National Park, and he was a photographer, and they were going to go out. He was going to take some pictures of the scenery out there, and his wife was like walking behind him. She literally was just like a couple steps behind him. It's not like they were separated or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns around and she's gone. Like,
that'd be horrible.
She's gone. Yeah, and obviously, he's freaking out. He don't know, he's trying to look for her, and just within, I think, like 20 minutes, he had already contacted the authorities, and within 2 hours, they had a helicopter up looking for her and everything. So it was like really quick, the response to look for her, and they couldn't find her. And she was like missing for, I believe, like a month or two. And then they finally found her, and they found her in this completely remote area of a river, like where it would be like, it was very, very hard for humans to reach that area. You would have to be like a very, very well trained to get down there. It wasn't like anybody was going into the area, and they just had no idea how her body got to that location,
Yeah.
and
even with kids in those missing 411, they disappear, and they turn up like 4 miles away over peaks and valleys and things they could never have possibly traversed.
Yes, exactly. And that's what happened with her. And I saw the story. I was watching a show called forgot the name of the show, but they were talking about a lot of these kind of missing 411 type stories that were happening in Yosemite National Park. And they were talking about these two guys that they said that they saw a pterodactyl, what they thought was a pterodactyl, a dragon-like kind of winged creature flying around there. And then they were kind of throwing out the possibility of, did something like that swoop down and pick her up? Right. And, flew away with her, and then maybe dropped her in one of these remote kind of areas. And that's why it was, that's why she was in this location. And so, I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm open to the possibility that there are these natural energetic portals that are located in these areas. And, maybe we are seeing like Jurassic era creatures maybe flying through. Just maybe they're just randomly accidentally stumbling upon these portals just like a human would, right? Pterodactyl's flying, doing his thing, and he accidentally flies into an energy portal, and boom, he pops out in our reality, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah. Now here's what I wonder about with those pterodactyls and stuff is that I think I of course hear these claims as well, and we've covered many of them on the show, but the part I don't understand is that one, obviously they must be from somewhere else because nobody's finding dead pterodactyls, so they wouldn't be smart enough to hide their bodies or anything like that. I mean, they're just going to die whenever they die and drop. And eventually somebody's going to find a dead pterodactyl, but nothing like that has ever happened. And they wouldn't care whether they were seen or not because they're just looking for their basic needs. But what I wonder about is, of course, the atmosphere was so different back then. It was so much more oxygenated than it is now. How would their physiology stand that jump in atmospherics and the gases that we have versus the gases that were in their environment, and how could it sustain?
I don't think they would be able to survive. I think if we're just talking about just it was a bad luck of the draw, right? Like this pterodactyl just accidentally flies into an energy portal, it's going to pop into our reality. It might survive for a little while, and then it just ends up dying, somewhere. And that's probably why, people are saying, oh, well, maybe it's a pterodactyl species that has survived and is still I don't think so, because you would find more evidence of it.
Yeah,
I think looking at more like a fluke scenario where just every once in a blue moon something pops in through a portal, it just accidentally happens. And
right.
What do you make
Just
of
like
sorry, Scott, what do you make of the Men in Black kind of interest in these kind of topics, Brent? Myself and Ben were talking about this the other night as well. It's strange how like the feds and you can't really call the Men in Black the feds because they're too strange. They're too almost inhuman to be feds. But what do you make of that? Why the big interest around it?
Well, I mean, it's obviously something people have experienced with these Men in Black, and these. From what I understand, they're just almost android. I've heard a story of one where it looked like he was basically almost out of juice and really lethargic and slow, and they don't seem to ever have any expression, no emotions. They're I forget the name of it when there's no body hair on them, but there's no eyebrows, there's no hair. They're just these robotic, unemotional beings. But I don't know what to make of those. I've really pondered that. Are they android? Are they some artificial form of life?
I put them down as almost being interdimensional as well,
Right. You think of that movie, The Adjustment Bureau, with like Matt Damon. Yeah.
You think about The Fringe as well, that had the observers in the suits and the hats. The game Half-Life as well. Big, huge, massive game. Scott will know what I'm talking about. The guy in the suit. This Man in Black, this kind of idea, this meme, it seems to be something that turns up not just around these stories, but movies definitely latch onto that as well. And I'm a firm believer that fact and fiction, they become very blurred when you enter the Hollywood arena, Brent.
Yeah, I agree with you, brother. I think you're absolutely right. I'm not sure what they're doing. I mean, are they? What I've wondered about is, are they like the overseers? And if this is like a prison planet of sorts, like some people have theorized, and I don't pretend to know. I mean, it gets way out there and hard to get your head around it.
Brent, if we knew, we would have nothing to talk about. It's the imagination. It's letting the mind run wild. That's what's good about all of this, right?
For sure.
We don't want an answer, Scott. That's the last thing we want. Dang, we won't have anything to talk about then. It'll just be a species. Carius erectus. Know what I mean?
Yeah, and ZX in the chat there. G-Man was the guy
right.
from Half-Life, and isn't there also a little bit of similarity between the Men in Black and say Slender Man? Because doesn't Slender Man wear a suit?
Yeah, and I've been looking a lot into these women in black as well. Nick Redfern was writing more about this women in black phenomenon. This is a kind of new one on me. It really is.
Me too. I've never heard of that.
Yeah. So definitely a lot more woo coming from that kind of particular genre. And of course, I always go back, Scott, to the Mothman. Point Pleasant, the bridge coming down, and that sighting of the Mothman or the Mothman. Now, there's a sound clip I really need to get for the board, right? I'm a man, not a man.
Yeah, it's Mothman.
Big time, dude. Big time.
Yeah. I got some more phenomena here if we can get into.
Well, we've got 3 minutes before the break. You might as well leave it for after the break now, since we're about to go on to the break anyway. But yeah, John Keel. That's where I get most of my really strange reports of the Men in Black from, Brent. Really blown away. It really left a mark on me, the Mothman prophecies. I'd only listened to that book recently, and I thought it just specifically dealt with the case at Point Pleasant, but it's almost like a cataloguing, recording of all things paranormal and woo. And John Keel, he done a fabulous job of trying to take the whole thing and almost make it scientific. Something that I know you like to try and do as well.
Yeah, I'm always trying to understand this stuff, and I'm embarrassed to admit I've not read or heard that book, but I'm familiar with the title. I'm familiar with some of the topic of it. But yeah, I mean, as far as it refers to Point Pleasant, but yeah, I don't know. It's craziness. And the thing that surprised me, Kev, is when I first started doing the show, I figured I had this stuff pretty well sorted out and knew what the hell I was doing. But the more you learn, the more questions you get, and the more you don't know.
Oh, we had a caller into the show last night, and it was so weird how she even phoned the show. She was watching Zachary Hubbard, who's obviously on our network, but he must have been doing something on YouTube. So she had a phone number to phone into Zach, which was the TFR number. Unbeknown to her, she was calling into the Kev Baker show. So she's kind of, who's this I'm talking to? What accent's that? And we came to find out that she had just recently, you know, hate to use the term, but recently awake, you know, not woke, became awake. And she's still in that kind of deer trapped in the headlights mode where everything's, you know, all fresh and new. And that's what I said to her, Brent. I says, you know, the longer you go on doing this, you might think you're going to get to the answers, but in reality, you end up with more questions than anything else. So just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey.
Amen, brother.
So there we go. There's the music. We're halfway through Freaky Friday, but we're not halfway through the Woo-a-thon. No, 5 hours of Woo. We've got an hour and a half down, 3.5 hours to go right here on TFRlive.com. Freaky Friday meets the Paranormal Portal, and me and Scott will be going through that portal right after Freaky Friday. Don't go anywhere. Yes, there we go, gentlemen. Now, I think somebody in the chat room was going to send us a Bigfoot video. I think Algo was going to send us one. Lance, he's got a great idea. Let's smoke a of hash and drink a bottle of gin. Okay, I'm on it ASAP. You go for it, Lance. I wish I was joining you, brother. I really do. I think that's the only thing missing tonight, but on a 5-hour extravaganza, Scott, I've got a habit of just not slowing down. And by the time we got to the Brent show, I should have been talking a bit like that. Nobody needs to hear that. Nobody needs to hear that on a Friday the 13th, dude.
That's quite all right. We could still work with that. We could work with it, Kev.
Yeah. I think one night I'll do a stream, and if people like, I'll absolutely whore myself out. You can pay me a £5 super chat and I'll take a drink of whiskey or something just to see what state I end up in. I tell you, the lengths I go to provide new content, Scott, eh? Yeah, telling you, always thinking of something new, man.
Yes.
What have you got for us after the break, Scott? What have you got simmering on the Woo cauldron?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a lot of interesting stuff here.
Hell, man, you've got too much to choose from.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to decide.
You know,
I'm looking for top tier Woo. So
I've got a list here. I've got a playlist, I think.
How about we get into some cattle mutilations in the UK?
Oh, sounds perfect. What do you make of that briefly before we go on then, Brent? You think it's otherworldly, military? What's your take?
I think it's otherworldly. I just I've spoken to people who've investigated these carcasses, and they said it's just the laser precision, the lack of blood, the lack of any kind of struggle. It just boggles the imagination.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you there. We had a caller as well a couple of weeks ago talking about shadow people, but also talking about, the fact that she'd been abducted, scoop marks on the skin, stuff like that. And it always blows me away because it's actually more common than I'm comfortable with, if that makes sense, Brent. It's a weird thing to think about, and I love to think of the aliens and they're all nice, and the big Nordics will come down and they'll take me onto their ship, but in reality, most people's first-hand experience, and I get not all of them will be telling the truth, but it's not a nice experience when you go up there, right? Oh, we've got the super chat.
Ooh.
I'm from WV. Mothman is real.
Oh, Mothman is definitely real. Cupcake. Absolutely. What it is, I can't tell you. I'm sure nowadays it's more a Mothman than a Mothman. But, yeah. I had to get that joke in somewhere. Get the Wookiee ready, Scott. We're almost about to beam ourselves back to the mothership. Talking of beaming ourselves back, anyone watching the new P-card?
I have not.
No, I'm quite. I can't complain. Here we go. I'm going to bring back the network. 3, 2.
How dare you?
From the Wookiee to Greta to the Woo crew and the Paranormal Portal. Yes, we are here on TFR Live, Truth Frequency Radio, where we give you protection from deception and where silence is consent. And where tonight it's the clash of the titans. The abnormal meets the paranormal, and it all comes together in 5 hours of woo. And if the first hour and a half is anything to go by, dang. Hope you're enjoying this half as much as we are. We've got Brent Thomas here, the man, the myth, the legend that brings us the Paranormal Portal. Now, I can't imagine there isn't anyone here that hasn't heard of your show, Brent. But maybe somebody in the archive, maybe on YouTube, will check it out. Never seen us cats before. Let them know when they can hear you, man.
You can catch the Paranormal Portal live 7 days a week, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. You can catch us on TFR Live on Friday and Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time until 9 p.m. And you can catch our podcast on all the major podcast players except for Stitcher, and that's the Paranormal Portal podcast. Just Paranormal Portal, but it's a podcast. And we release that 3 times a week. So we're doing 10 shows a week, ladies and gentlemen. Lots of paranormal fun for everyone.
Dang, you would think, 10 shows a week, you're going to run out of stuff to talk about, but there's never a shortage of stuff to talk about. And Scott's like we often say, right? The more you look into, the more questions you have, the more you've got to look into, and then you start to realize this rabbit hole, it's never ending.
Yeah, Brent totally hit the nail on the head with that, because I've found that is the case. The more we do this, the more we dig into things, and the more we start looking into stuff, the more you realize, wow, I have more questions now than I came in to begin with. It's like you go down the rabbit hole, and then you hit a juncture, and there's like 5 more 5 more holes to go down from there. So it's like, but that's
it's a quantum rabbit hole as well, because then you find yourself in that weird place where you're actually in 2 rabbit holes at once, and you don't even know how you got to the first one. And that's when it's time to switch everything off and go to bed, folks. Time to say goodnight, go to bed, get up, start another day, and back at it. But Scott, you have brought up a brilliant topic for the paranormal fest that we're having today, man. What have you got for us now, dude?
Well, it's a topic that has always interested, that has always piqued my interest, because it's just so bizarre, it's just so crazy, and it's just so many questions, and it's the whole cattle mutilation thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just something that I've been interested in, like, ever since I first heard about it when I was like a teenager. The laser precision of these mutilations, the total removal of bodily fluids and blood, and
Linda Moulton Howe gave up a mainstream career. I mean, I think she worked for one of the networks, went to report on these strange cattle mutilations, and couldn't go back to the real mainstream media. She just couldn't get over the fact that this was happening. And that's the profound effect it had on her. I had Linda on the show once. She's somebody that still looks into all of this stuff, but without people like her, I know she's got her critics, and I don't agree with everything she says, but this subject alone, she's done a lot of work to get the information out there. You have to take your hat off to that, eh?
Yeah, she's one of the main players when it comes to looking into cattle mutilations. So
Yep.
yeah, no doubt. So yeah, but this is from once again, Mysterious Universe. This is from the man himself, Mr. Nick Redfern.
Can we call him Sir Nick? Can we just make him an honorary knight of Freaky Friday? A knight of our realm. I've just made a realm, and he's the first knight in it, right? It's been by KBS decree. I am bestowing the knighthood of WOO onto Nick, Sir Nicholas of Redfern.
Yes, Sir Nicholas of Redfern. Oh man, yeah. So we're gonna look at some disturbing cases of cattle mutilations that have occurred.
Is there any
on your side of the
non-disturbing
pond.
ones, Scott? I mean, how do you differentiate between a disturbing one and a not so disturbing one? What's your kind of gold standard here? What takes you across that threshold into the disturbing ones?
Exactly. That's a good question, Kev. Good question.
The big question I have about this is that I really believe it's these advanced races doing this, right? I really do. But what I don't understand is this is an advanced race. What the hell are they learning from cow anuses? It's like, what kind of math is going on?
I do know that the beaver anus provides very lovely raspberry flavoring for most of our food. So I'm just saying maybe they've got a milkshake that they need that bovine bum for. I don't know. I talk
Thanks
about
for
all
listening, raspberry.
never having a milkshake of any description again, chocolate or raspberry. I'm out.
Thanks for that.
You just ruined raspberry for Brent.
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's Ryan Gable. Blame Ryan Gable. He took me on a show, and I swear I didn't think I was going to eat again after he told me about all this Wookiee stuff. Scott, I apologize. I'm all excited. It's the Woo-a-thon. What can I say, man?
Oh, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff. Just don't think about it next time you eat some raspberry ice cream. Just So yes, we're going to look into some disturbing cases of cattle mutilations that have occurred in the UK. This is from Nick Redfern, and it says, now and again, I'm asked about the issue of cattle mutilations and animal mutilations in the UK. Well, yes, there are such things in the UK, I should stress, though that when I'm asked about these grisly and undeniably disturbing phenomena, people are usually talking about the theory that aliens are the culprits. The truth, though, is that most mutilations in the UK are undertaken by sick people who should be behind bars. That said, there are some genuinely weird cases. On April 11th, 1977, no less than 15 wild ponies were found dead at Cherrybrook Valley, Dartmoor, Devonshire, England, by a Tavistock storekeeper named Alan Hicks, who had been crossing the wild and desolate moors with his children. It was not until mid-July, however, that the media began reporting on the incident in depth. Newspaper articles in my possession demonstrate that the story traveled as far as South Africa. However, considering the following story extracted from the UK's Western Morning News of July 13th, 1977. Fears that the mystery deaths of 15 ponies near a Dartmoor beauty spot were caused by visitors from space were being probed by a Torbay team yesterday. Armed with a Geiger counter, metal detectors, and face masks, 4 men are investigating what leading animal authorities admit to seem as totally abnormal happening, and they are hoping their equipment will throw a new light on the 3-month-old mystery, while other investigators look for signs of malnutrition, disease, or poisoning, or even gunshot wounds. The 4 men are seeking proof that extraterrestrials were responsible for the deaths. The trail went icy cold until pretty much 1991, when a great mate of mine, Jonathan Downs, a prolific author, journalist, investigator, and the director of the Center for 14 Zoology began to probe the case. John, who was living in Devonshire at the time and who still resides there to this very day, succeeded in tracking down a number of those people that had been quoted in tracking down a number of those people. Read that again. By the newspaper some 14 years previously. Curiously, John detected a very distinct reluctance to talk, even after almost a decade and a half. Even more bizarre, one of those same individuals who strictly adhered to a non-paranormal explanation for the pony's death complained to a research colleague of John's acquaintance for constantly pestering her day and night by phone, when in actuality, the only contact had been one solitary telephone call. It was a mystery never solved. On the afternoon of a spring day in 1992, John Downs was deep in conversation with a police officer from Middlemore Police Station in the English city of Exeter. The subject of the conversation was the so-called big cat sightings, such as the notorious Beast of Bodmin, Beast of Dartmoor, and Beast...
Hang on, Scotty, hang on.
Amur Indian told me Mothman is an Indian curse.
An Amur Indian told me that the Mothman is an Indian curse. Wow. That's quite interesting. Thank you, Cupcake.
Yes, very interesting indeed. That's a very interesting angle on it. No doubt. So they were talking about these big cat sightings, known as the Beast of Dartmoor and the Beast of Exmoor, that have been reported throughout the British counties of Devon and Cornwall. Isn't Devon where the hairy hands were located?
Devon. Yeah, that's right. Yep. You're right,
Devon.
dude. You're right. Yep.
Of Devon and Cornwall for decades. Was John aware, the officer inquired, that there had occurred at nearby Newquay Zoo in the late 70s a series of grisly mutilations of animals under extremely strange circumstances? John replied that no, he was not. Fortunately, however, the officer was able to put John in touch with the one man in a position to discuss the facts, the head keeper at the zoo at the time in question. And here's where things began to get distinctly odd. John wasted no time in tracking the man down. Elderly and failing health, he confirmed to John the basics of the story. Very strange deaths had occurred at the zoo, and wallabies, swans, and geese had been beheaded. But more significantly, their corpses had been totally drained of blood. Another strange saga remained unsolved. While I don't personally adhere to the theory or belief system that the UK mutes are the work of ETs, some do. One of those is Mike Freebury. I met Freebury for the first time a few years ago when I was back in the UK for 2 weeks. He was the author of a 2011 book titled Killers on the Moor. And it's a 252 pages long book that looks deeply into the matter of mutes in the UK. If the animal mutilations issue or interests you, then you should really get a copy of Killers on the Moor. Regardless of whether you're of the opinion of that aliens, wild animals, government conspiracies, or cults are the culprit, Freebury's book is important as it's the only one ever written on the subject of UK-based animal mutilations. So, I mean, yeah, it seems like that these things occur in the UK, but it's not that researched as much as, say, the cattle mutilations.
I like the fact that Sir Nicholas calls them mutes. Like it's just some kind of slang term for it all. I do like that. But yeah, very, very interesting indeed. And I was just thinking there though, Brent, you know, not the type of book you want to leave lying around if you're maybe having a first date or something. You know, a book about animal mutilation. You know, maybe if the police come into your house to question you about something again, Not the best reading material you want on View, right?
Yeah, no, that would leave the wrong impression, I'm pretty sure.
Add that to Kev's dating tips, gents. You don't want that one kicking around when you're getting your brown chicken, brown cow on. Oh, hell no. So,
How
what do
to
you think
Remain
then?
Single by Kent Baker.
Do you think it's almost like the genetic side of things then, Brent Scott, that's appealing, attracting these entities here? Something that they obviously can't get on their planet, right?
That's, it would make sense. I'm just not sure why they have to repeatedly do it. Is there something they're not learning the first 300 or 400 times that they're going to figure out the next time? That's what seems bizarre to me. And, the thing is we don't know how advanced these races could be. They could be 100 years advanced or 1,000,000 years. And it's like, I don't know. Is there something that they couldn't somehow synthesize, in their own place? I don't know. It's very, very curious.
Maybe it's just like some AI spaceship and it's got this really, really strong desire to identify as a big British cow. Hey, don't be judgy. Don't be judgy there, Superman. Listen to him. Just because you've got superpowers and your cape and everything,
It puts the lotion on its pelt.
Yes, indeed. What do you think, Scott? I mean, you hear about the abductions. We hear about people being used to have hybrid babies. That must be absolutely horrendous for the women involved in that. Again, there's almost a genetic thing there. I don't know, dude. It's weird. Again, I can't figure out why,
As far as the animal mutilation thing, like, I'm on the fence. I sometimes lean one way, I sometimes lean another way. I also think that there also may be multiple explanations, not just one specific thing. I find a lot of similarities with cattle mutilations and stuff with a lot of the things you find with, like, the chupacabra. But the way the chupacabra kills its prey, right? It completely drains it of blood and all of that stuff. So, I mean, are we looking at some kind of a cryptid that's killing these animals in a specific way? And maybe that's its marker, or that's its way of doing it. But then how does that explain, like, the laser precision and the cuts, And so I don't know, I really can't say I can pin it down to one specific thing. It's just bizarre. It's just one of these topics that I think it's because there's so many questions. That's what makes it so interesting.
It would be quite interesting
really
as well, Scott, Brent. I don't know if there's any stories out there, but Native Americans, Aboriginal people in Australia, people with their stories. I wonder if this was happening to animals in their time. I wonder if there's any stories of weird things. I know it'll probably be, they'll talk about sky people or something, and they often do talk about sky people. But I wouldn't be surprised if this wasn't anything new. That's the point I'm trying to make. This is probably something that's been going on forever, right?
Sure. Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know of any particularly, but that wouldn't surprise me even a little if this is not a new phenomenon. I imagine. I've often wondered if the Earth is just like a interstellar 7-Eleven where all these people just kind of swing by and grab stuff for the rest of their journey. And maybe cow is a delicacy out there. I don't know.
Well, what about us? Do you think we're the product of one of these visitations, some science experiment? Genetics again.
I do. I kind of, I kind of subscribe to the whole Lloyd Pye view of it and, of the Anunnaki and because there's a lot of questions about how we got here. I mean, you look at everything else in our world, it's all suited for this world except for us. We need shelter. We need clothing. We need so much to survive here. And it's like, how did our ancient ancestors do this? Because we are soft and weak and really out of our elements. So was there another home?
Oh, we have got another super chat. Edward,
Woo.
thank
You
you.
all are the best. Long live Cabes.
Long live Cabes. And it's the one night that Cabes isn't here. It's the Freaky Friday meets the paranormal, but I absolutely get you, Edward. Thank you very much. Yes, well, how about the abduction kind of angle on this, guys? What would you make of that, you know? I often now think back and refer to the documentary The Seeding, and that's all to do with people that get used in these hybridization programs. That is some really weird stuff, and I often say to people that roll their eyes, you know, it only takes one of these stories to be true. And secondly, there's absolutely no fame or fortune or anything beneficial to making this up. You know, you open yourself up to ridicule as opposed to anything else, Scott.
So lately, at least over the past couple of years, my view of the abduction thing has shifted from an extraterrestrial alien aspect to more of a supernatural demonic aspect. We talk about like the succubi and the incubi, and a lot of these experiences that people have when it comes to like these like shadow people experiences, where it's a very kind of traumatic event for them, where these shadow entities force themselves upon the individual. And I see a lot of similarities between those experiences that people have and a lot of the abduction experiences that people have. So I'm wondering now, like, are we dealing with maybe like a demonic aspect to it as opposed to an extraterrestrial aspect? You know, there seems to be a lot of similarities. And now, I mean, there are differences, like as far as like people saying, okay, I was aboard a ship, I seemed like I was in like a surgical room, and then, you know, they're seeing what appears to be these aliens or grays or entities of some sort. But I mean, is it really aliens, or is it something that is more paranormal and supernatural in nature? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, Brent?
I think that the lines get real blurry, and you can hear several different stories from several different people, and some of them seem to be more supernatural. Some of them seem to be more extraterrestrial, and then there's the few that there's some that just seem to bleed into one another, and it's hard to understand. I think sometimes these abduction scenarios are more multidimensional than they are extraterrestrial. I assume because they come through dreams a lot of time, which is hard to understand, and maybe that's just the way that these people are processing the experience. But what if it's all just a ruse, and it is more dark and nefarious and of some ill-natured extra or supernatural being? And it's tough to know, because you hear stuff like Benny and Barney Hill. I mean, it seems like they really had a very extraterrestrial encounter and were abducted and had evidence to show for it with the dress and such. But then you hear other accounts where people are like, I'm in my bed and suddenly I'm surrounded by these beings, these shadowy beings, and they lift me up and drag me through a wall, and the next thing I know, I'm in this area that's like a circular room. It looks like sterile with tables, and I'm on one of them, and they just seem really this whole different kind of experience. So I don't know. I think they kind of bleed through into each other, and I don't think it's maybe just so cut and dried, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way now. Like, I have to start looking. Like, I've also looked at the UFO phenomena. I'm trying to look at it from both angles now too. As you know, people automatically, when they think UFOs, are like, oh, aliens. You know, aliens from another planet. You know, aliens from another, whatever solar system. They're coming to visit us, and I'm like, well.
And when you think about it, though, what is when at the foundation of it all, if they're energetic beings of, does the origin matter? I mean, isn't it maybe the same anyway?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about something that is not of this realm, something that's not
right
from here. I mean, so technically, I mean, even if it is like, say, a demon or something that's coming through interdimensionally, it is a foreign origin. It is alien, right?
Right, exactly.
So I mean, it's all an alien experience. So yeah, but like the UFO thing, I'm wondering. Yeah, I mean, are we looking at something supernatural that may be manifesting itself into our reality or into our realm, and then disappearing?
Ooh, hold that thought. 2 hours down. Not one, not two, but 3 to go on your very Friday the 13th. Very freaky, and it is going to get very much more freaky after the break. Don't go anywhere. 1 hour of Freaky Friday to go. 2 hours of Paranormal Portal to go right here on TFRlive.com. Oh, just got it in. There we go. There we go. Yes, we are on the break, gents. Dang, 2 hours down already.
It's going fast.
Yes, when we come back after the break, I'm going to be asking about any paranormal activity you've had around you, Brent, or...
I got a good one for you.
Oh, you see, we like that, Scott. We like that, indeedy. And Scott...
Just happened yesterday.
Oh, nice. Yesterday, fresh. I like that. And Scott, anything been happening around your personal portal? I know that sounds a bit rude. I shouldn't ask you that live on air. Right? I know, big man, I know. Come on, it's time for us to come out the closet, right? No, I'm not that woke. Oh, hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
Oh, hey. Tell you, man.
Hey. No, nothing too crazy that I can think of ever since my brother's friend had that incident with the
big, like,
the entity standing behind his car, and he drove through it as he was backing out.
Not good.
Yeah,
not good at all, man.
I do want to hear about this bang again, though, Scotty.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, so should I wait till we get back on TFR?
Yeah, leave it, because that's a good mystery topic as well, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have to fill Brent in on it anyways, because this has been a thing that we've been experiencing for quite a few years, actually. So it's really bizarre, really, really bizarre. And I actually need to like ask around some of our neighbors and stuff if they hear it too. They have to hear it. You know, we're kind of in a rural area, so we're like spaced out from our neighbors, so it's not like I can just go next door. But
you're just trying to see if they hear you howling like a werewolf and it's the full moon, isn't it? That's what you're worried about, Scott.
Yeah, I'm going in the backyard.
Yeah, you're worried. You're worried this ruse that you're playing on all of us is bust. You know, your days as a werewolf. We're gonna find out soon, dude. We're gonna find out. I'm telling you, man.
I'm a lichen.
Is your beard growing?
Brilliant. So when we come back then, folks, we'll get Scott's story about the mystery booms and noises and bangs going on. And then I'm really looking forward to hearing what Brent has had happening around him in the past couple of days. Lots more to get into here. And Oh, am I glad we done this, guys? Really, really. We're not even halfway there yet, but I am having a blast. Total blast. And it's totally natural, you know. I said to Brent today, I said, and I've not even done it, I said, the only bit I'm scripting is I'll maybe ask you about Nessie, because usually I get asked about that. I haven't even got there yet. So it's all off the cuff. You know, I think we touched base on Skype, what, maybe twice today, Brent, ahead of the show. None for something unscripted. I think we do pretty dang well, guys. Pretty dang well.
Amen, brother.
It's the TFR way. It truly is.
Hmm.
It would sound bad
Yeah,
if we had like a list of topics drawn up, and now we're moving on to this. We've got 10 minutes to talk about the bunyip.
Our plan.
Here we
Our
go.
plan is to have no plan.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Here we go.
I
Here we go, boys. Here we go. 3, 2.
How dare you?
Nah. I think the Wookiee's going to eat her, Scott. I really do think the Wookiee's going to take umbrage at her stepping all over his intro. I'm going to put her back in the drawer in her place. But we've got 1 hour to go here on this absolutely amazing marathon of the abnormal mixing with the paranormal. We've got Brent Thomas, somebody who is our #1 paranormal show right here on Truth Frequency Radio. And we said a couple of months ago, you know, we should get together on Friday the 13th. These two powerhouses, these two shows, you know, we bring in a lot of listeners to the network independently, guys. And I can't believe it's taken us this long to actually think of this, to be honest with you.
That is true. That's true. It took a long time, but the best things are worth waiting for.
They are, and everything happens at the right time. And Scott, just before we went to the show tonight, you were messaging me on Facebook. And you had a bit of kind of woo happening today, right?
Yeah, literally, like while you were chatting with me on Facebook, another mystery boom or rumble, whatever you want to call it, occurred. Like it happened, and it was pretty significant. It actually, like, you could feel it in the ground. It's a rumble that sounds like distant thunder, but you can't really place the location, like the direction it's coming from. It just sounds like it's all around. Like, I guess you could say either directly above, or you just can't really pinpoint a location. Like, look, I live in Kansas. There's lots of thunderstorms. I've been through lots of thunderstorms. When thunder cracks or when thunder occurs, I usually kind of know you can hear the direction that like maybe where the lightning comes from. Like, okay, a lightning bolt hit that way, and that's the direction the thunder is coming from. But with these, like, there's no way of figuring out like where it's coming from. It just kind of sounds like it's all around you. But
that sounds like the one my mum had up in the north of Scotland. It was hard to pinpoint where it was actually coming from. That seems to be a commonality with these weird noises, right?
Yeah, it just sounds like it's all around you.
I think it's coming from inside the earth. I think it's something to do with the deep underground bases, tunnels. I do. I just do.
That's very possible. I mean, I
remember
don't know,
when we heard the ice going down that ice hole, and the focusing of the sound coming back out of it made it really weird. Hey, we've got another super chat.
Please tell Scott that was me farting.
I tried to bleep out there, but it was. But no, that and the call we took from Andy as well when he was talking about the mining. You think, you know, maybe that noise, it's got to go somewhere, right? It travels back along the tunnel, it comes out. Maybe it makes some weird effect that you can't tell where it's coming from, you know?
Scotty, is there any fracking in your area?
I live in northeast Kansas, and there's really not much fracking in northeast Kansas. That's more in western Kansas. So I've ruled that out.
Okay.
So I don't think it has anything to do with fracking. There's been a couple of because I've really tried to do a lot of trying to figure out what could be causing this. Right now, we had a coal-fire power plant that is only about a mile away from my house, and they've shut it down. And so I was thinking, okay, sometimes you would hear the train come in and dump coal out there, even from a mile away. When you have that much coal being dumped out of a train car, it makes a distant kind of rumble sound, but we've heard that and we know what that sound is, I mean, we've kind of figured that out. So it's not that. And now that the plant has been deactivated, they actually demolished part of it, and we actually thought maybe one of the sounds we may have heard was when they demolished one of the smokestacks or whatever.
Oh.
But now that it's gone and there's nothing there, we're still hearing these we're still hearing these rumbles, these mysterious rumbles, and we just don't know what they are. But yeah, today I was just sitting there, like I said, I was talking to Kev and heard it, and then my mom from the other room, she's like, "What was that? Did you hear that?" Oh, yeah, I heard it. And I was like, it was another rumble, another mystery rumble. We just can't figure out what it is.
It's been going on for years now around the world, though, right? I mean, I remember Eastern Europe was the first videos that went viral of it. I want to say Serbia. It was a block of flats, and people are just trumpets of the apocalypse, and some of them sound more metally than others, grinding, almost whining and wailing. And again, we had Anthony Patch on the network, obviously, at one point, and he would talk about telluric currents in the atmosphere and the fact that they would slap about. And, when you picture that in your mind, I can see how that might produce a noise from time to time. Maybe solar wind hitting it, I don't know. But what do you put it down to, Brent? And I think it's, again, I don't think there's any one answer's going to, fit everything here.
Yeah, it's tough because I know what you're talking about. I know people are hearing booms and having weird, almost seismic anomalies, even though they're not necessarily seismic at all. I don't know. Is it? It's like anybody's guess is as good as the next. But I don't know that I actually have a theory. I mean, nothing of it makes sense to me. But it's certainly something that's absolutely happening.
What? No theory? You're theoryless? Oh, give this man an idea, Scott. He needs one.
Now, look, now you remember there's also another phenomenon known as the hum.
Yep.
Yeah.
And last year, I think we were experiencing the hum for a little while. At least I believe it was, because it was keeping me from sleeping. It was kind of annoying. And it's just like this. The only way I could describe it is, those people that got sound systems in their car that play bass,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And you hear them off in the distance, and you just hear that
It's like distant CPR, yeah.
I think I found one here, Scott. I think I found one. This is Al Jazeera it comes from. What is causing the mysterious worldwide hum? So we'll take a little listen to this. Oh, hang on.
Is a low-pitched rumble, like a car or truck engine idling nearby, with electronics pulsing. This is a simulation.
We'll be finding out soon enough whether or not the world hum is as prevalent in Asia.
That was a little blast of it there, Scott, but that seemed to ring a bell with you.
Yeah, that was almost spot on to the sound I was hearing.
Wow.
What was weird, though, is that I would hear it. I could hear it. My mom couldn't hear it. Because I'm be like, hey, could you hear that? Do you hear that noise? It's like a low, deep rumble. And she's like, I can't hear it. And I'm like, man, it's keeping me from sleeping.
You know, people at different
sleep.
ages as well. You know, when you're younger, you can hear different frequencies and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, well, maybe she's just not, like.
Yeah, I think this might be another one of these hum videos. Let's see.
Oh.
No, you see, this is what annoyed me when it all started to kick off with really cool ones at the start. You had BAM pots going out there, taking the same audio, maybe stretching it a bit longer. And you're like, come on, this is good, but now it's almost like UFOs. It puts you off looking because you don't know what's real and what's not. And but there's definitely a phenomenon out there. I would definitely think there's something. Don't know what it is, but it's real.
That first one you played where they sort of tried to simulate the sound, that was...
What the heck is that? Luna.
Now, I know it's really windy, but you can hear that noise coming through it, right?
Do you hear that? You guys hear that? What is that? What is that?
Yeah, that's pretty weird. That's like the ones I was.
See, I've never heard. See, I consider those were like I consider those like the sky trumpet sounds. I've never heard sky trumpets.
No.
I just hear what sounds like.
Could it be harp?
Rumble of thunder.
Yeah.
So
that hum. Do you think?
Low?
Yeah. It uses ELF, ULF as well. And of course, there's not just harp. You've got about 72 of these things around the world. So, or you could have the fact that I get some of these places, the videos are rural, but we're living in an electromagnetic soup now. I mean, we might literally just be hearing the information and the electric waves and energy all around us. It's just, we're pumping so much out there. Maybe that's affecting it.
That's a good point. I mean, as more and more signals are being jettisoned around our atmosphere, perhaps it does create a resonance from time to time that just manifests like these weird anomalous sounds.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And, maybe you wouldn't hear the frequencies individually, but maybe they sometimes line up in phase with each other, and then it creates a...
There's my theory.
Harmonic,
So there you go. There's his theory, Kev.
I've got one now.
Now I'm happy. You were almost looking naked there, being serious. Dang, dude. But listen, that was Scott's little noises he's heard. But you've had something going on around you lately. What's been happening, Brent?
So check this out. This is one that's got me really scratching my head. Like, I've dealt with lots of hauntings. I've dealt with lots of spiritual activity. I've dealt with what I believe was a Bigfoot behind me at one time, and I've seen a flying saucer really up close and personal. I've had all these experiences, but what happened yesterday, I've never had happen before. This is a brand new one, and it's really got me wondering what the hell's going on. So I went to the post office yesterday, had to drop off of some packages, and I went in and delivered the packages and got out, got the minion in the car seat, and I got in the car, put the car in reverse. Now, the driveway for the post office is very small. It's a very small town I live in. So it's literally just a little parking lot with parking on both sides and one lane to go through one way. So it's not enough for cars to even go side by side. So I'm looking around. It was really busy. I'm crawling very slowly out of the parking spot backwards, backing up, and I turn the wheel, and I drive really carefully. I don't screw around when I'm driving.
I drive like an old woman, man. I'm terrible. I'm the safest guy in the road. Hands at 10 to 2. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So I'm taking real care getting out of this parking space. People are everywhere. Cars are everywhere. And I'm watching all my mirrors, checking over the shoulders and stuff, and I'm backing up like literally 1 mile an hour or right around. I was literally just crawling. And I'm watching because abutting next to the to the post office is another building that used to be a coffee shop, but it's sitting vacant now. But there's this big wall there, and in front of that wall is like one of those guardrails from like the highways that keep you on the road, the metal barriers that they have alongside of roads. And they got it going alongside of this building. So, I imagine they must have had problems in the past. So they put up that guardrail thing. So I'm watching it really carefully as I'm backing up. I've got about 5 feet between me and this thing, and I'm inching backwards slowly. And suddenly I hit something. And I didn't it was like I bumped something, but whatever I bumped was significant enough to stop the car and even make the wheels kind of like make that little scuffing noise. Like it kind of kicked it sideways a little bit. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Now I looked in the mirrors again. I hit the brake right away. Look in the mirrors again. I still got about 4 feet between me and this rail. There's nothing else there. There's no people around. I hit something that stopped my car. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened? So I'm like inching forward, looking at the mirrors, like, what did I run into someone? Did I, what happened? There's no cars anywhere near. And I inch forward, looking in the mirror. There's nothing there. I hit nothing. But whatever I hit stopped my car. And it was a wide open space. Like there was nothing there that I could have bumped into. It stopped my car.
Ow.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude. It's really, like, even after that, I was like, oh my God, do I tell people about this? Do I keep it to myself? What do I do with this?
That's bizarre.
It's way bizarre, buddy. And I've seen a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not new to this paranormal stuff, but I don't know what the hell that was. And it's got me just perplexed.
I can't, there's no reference for me. I've never come across one like this before. Again, you could go to the margin of dimensions. Again, you've obviously hit something that's there, but you can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it was significant enough to stop the car. Again, it's a 2,000-pound car rolling even 1 mile an hour. It's got a significant, mass to it. But whatever it was, stopped the car.
No marks on the bumper, nothing like that, nothing.
No, exactly. I got out of the car right afterwards, looked around. There's no scuff marks on the bumper, and it's a dirty car. Like I would see where it was buffed, where it hit something. There was nothing there. I don't know. It was really.
Oh, I've got the goosebumps, man. Oh. Not good, Brent. Not good.
Well, I don't know.
You know what it might have been, Scott? It might be one of these black-eyed kids. Usually when you're parked up, they come to your window and spook you out. I think it was just getting ready to materialize, an old paranormal portal there, right in the reverse. Wow. Out of there. Dang, dude.
I was really, literally pooping myself as I pulled forward because I thought somehow I had hit someone or something.
Well, I heard Chris and Cherie not long ago. A big shout out to Chris and Cherie. Without them in the network, none of this would be happening. And I remember them talking about driving somewhere they knew anyway. And usually I'm going to paraphrase, probably butcher it, but they used to take a shortcut or cut through on a road. Go to do this. It's common. They do it all the time. Only the road now, it's all growing over. It's like it's been unused for years. It sounded like there was grass growing out the kind of pavement where it used to be a road, and they asked somebody, and somebody, no, it's always been like that. That's almost like a geographical Mandela. It's almost like a change in the reality around you that, for some reason people don't notice. Or that really begs the question, are we moving in between different places here?
Brent's experience reminds me of some of the videos I saw. Now I know most of them are CGI and hoaxes, but there's like a couple where you just see cars driving and they just hit something, hit an invisible.
Yep,
that's a good point, Scotty. I never even thought of that. I don't know why. You'd think I would because I use one on one of my brake sequences.
I really do think that could be evidence of the stacking of realities. For whatever reason, it's materialized enough to the point where it's gaining some solidity, even if we can't see it. And bang, you hit something and it looks like nothing's there. But for whatever reason, at that point, it was there.
Some of the mass has actually phased in, and you've hit
the
it.
The antimatter's becoming matter, Scott. And Yeah.
but it still hasn't hit the visual spectrum yet or something.
Remember, we only see such a small slither of the
Mhm.
visible spectrum, as wonderful and as technicolor as our world is. And look at nature, the colors that you see there. Then you appreciate that it's only like that much that we're really getting to see when there's. And again, we think we've drawn the full spectrum. Yeah, that's what we think the spectrum is. There could be stuff beyond that.
Very true. Very true. And the same thing for sound. We hear a small spectrum of the sound.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, though. That is really bizarre, dude. Really bizarre, though.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe it's a glitch in the simulation, Kev.
It definitely sounds like one, doesn't it? And again, somebody in the chat room was talking simulation earlier. That fits. Only I think it fits because it's the closest thing we've got that resembles what we think's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
Like an interesting example that I can utilize here would be, say you're a video game. Say you're playing a game, right? And you try to go beyond the map, but they have that invisible
throwing back in. That was happening to me on Warzone just the other day, Scott. I had to come off the server, but you were running down a road, and I'd get to a certain point, and it would put me back to where I'd started. And I'd run down the road thinking, again, it'll be fixed this time. The glitch will be gone. No, right back to the top of the hill. What did I do? Oh, I'll do it again. I'll get there this time. Yep, insanity. Keep on repeating it, thinking you're going to get a different outcome. But very true, and we often talk about, Brent, on here anyway, how these first-person shooter games, computer games, when you compare them to the way we render our world around us, where we look, and there's a lot of similarities going on there, right?
Yeah, there is. I really do think that there are naturally occurring portals, and we've talked about it several times on the show tonight, but I had kind of a time slip at one point, too, that was really strange.
Oh, tell us more, man. We like time anomalies on here.
Well, yeah, it was very strange. I was driving in a blizzard with my oldest son, and this is back in Minnesota about, 10 years ago or so. We were driving through this blizzard. It was getting bad. And we were on this back road, this country road, and we're coming up to the part of the road that was going to be kind of corkscrewing or S-curving through this valley. And the roads were horrible. I couldn't see 5 feet past the hood of my car. And we got to get home. We're stuck out there in the middle of nowhere. So we don't really have a choice. It's not like you can just pull over. So it's a blizzard going on, and we're coming along, and I knew that part of the road was coming up. I knew where we were. And I told my son, I said, just be careful. We got to help me watch, because we're going to be coming up to that treacherous part of the road now. And, it's going to take all we can do just to stay on the road. This is going to be, really scary. And we're driving along, and we're doing like maybe 5-10 miles an hour. And so we're not making this huge progress or anything. So we're coming along. We're getting to the point in the road where that's going to happen. And I look up and I see a sign for the town that's 2 miles past that, entering Hay Creek. And I'm like, this isn't possible. We had gone only straight. No turns had I made. And somehow we were 2 miles past that suddenly, boom, like that. Didn't feel a thing. There was no change that I felt. There was no transition that I felt. And my son was the first to say it. He's like, Dad, what's going on? How is that possible? Why are we here? We can't be here. And I was like, I don't know what's going on.
It's even better when you've got that shared experience, Brent, the two of you there. Yeah. And
if I had been alone, I wouldn't be talking about it now, because
this isn't a rare story, though, right? You hear a lot of accounts like this, driving for 2 hours, and then 10 minutes into the journey, 1 mile to go, and what happened there,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's in this case, it was really wonderful, and I'm really grateful that whatever it was intervened and helped us out, because I was really worried. We could have been in a real bad place.
What'd you make of this, Scotty?
Time anomalies. This is another one that fascinates me a lot. Like time gaps, time slips.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's the story. I can't think of the guy's name, but he was the pilot that was flying, I think, from the Bahamas to.
Yep.
Uh,
And I've seen
yeah.
on Discovery or History Channel, boom, right there.
Yeah, he's flying, and then he said he flew into a cloud, and he was surrounded by a kind of a gray fog, and it kind of had an electric feel to it. And then next thing you know, he's like, 300 miles in a different location, and he's talking to flight control in Miami, and
You
they're like,
see,
dude,
I think
what
this is you have to really look at that story, right? And you have to then think of a story like MH370. That is one of the strangest things that's ever happened, you know, that plane. And for me, I don't know, there's a TV show, Manifest, and I don't know if they're foreshadowing something, but the premise of that is a plane disappears and it reappears 5 years later. But the people on the plane, they just experience turbulence, Scotty. They just go through an electric cloud, shall we say. And it makes you wonder, you know, especially up in that well, not the upper atmosphere, but up there, you know, the electrical storms that can take place. You know, is that enough to rip a hole in the veil? I don't know, possibly, potentially.
I think so. I think lightning and storm activity, you know, releases massive amounts of energy. There's a lot that we don't even understand about just the natural phenomena that occurs on our own planet. And I've always been I'll get into it when we get back. We're going to break.
Yes, indeed. And then during the next segment, Brent is going to go away. He's going to clean out the paranormal portal. He's going to get the beers out. We're going to head on over to his place for a couple of doobies. And we will be back after these short messages. Don't go anywhere, folks. Yes, indeed. And I want to thank everyone for hanging with us tonight. I think it's an overwhelming majority have been absolutely blown away by the information and the conversation so far, and I've certainly enjoyed it so far. And when we do come back after the break, I'll get Brent's thoughts on something, and then we'll let you go, Brent. You can get all your stream stuff ready to go and everything else. But I can't believe how quickly this is going. Final segment of Freaky Friday already. 5 hours at the time sounded quite daunting, but I tell you what, boys. I think you predicted this, Scott, right? We'd get to the end of it and it would feel like, still so many more rabbit holes to go down.
Exactly. I knew this was going to be one of those really, really, really good. Hey, it's the clash of the titans.
Yes. An apt show for a Freaky Friday if you're in America. It's now very much a strange Saturday over here. And, you know, talking of time, it just shows you how fickle and kind of crap a construct it is when you guys can put your clocks forward over there, and then for a fortnight, it's almost like we time travel. You catch us up by an hour, and then we put our clocks forward and we get parity again. You see how that time thing's kind of fluid and it doesn't really matter, and you can just make it up as you go along. I really don't think we've got any idea what time is. I just don't. I think it's just movement. It's just... We've managed to like break it down into the Planck scale and measure this thing at an atomic level that maybe doesn't even exist. Now, for a bunch of shaved monkeys, that's pretty good going, whether it's real or not, right?
That's true. I think you're right. I think that, you know, it's like, I really do subscribe to the idea that all moments are happening. There's just like one big moment. It's all happening at the same time, but our awareness goes through this experience and we perceive that as time.
Yep, exactly. And, you know, if you look at it from the quantum level, you know, time doesn't even exist at the quantum level. You know, so
somebody's asking, was Joe Joseph abducted? I don't know. Did Popeye take him to his interdimensional tramp's pocket and gimp him up? I think Popeye's gimped up Joe. I really do think he's been Florida man. Yeah. Hopefully we'll have Popeye on the show at the weekend. I know there's a popular demand for the beard to be on at the weekends. Don't tell him though. His ego is big enough as it is. We don't need it getting any bigger. Is that not right, Scott?
If we keep this up, I mean, his ego might be as big as his beard.
True. Now, Brent, what I need you to do is, if you could, drop a link to your channel. Let people know where to find your channel so that when this show finishes in half an hour, we're going to jump on over to the Paranormal Portal, because then I'm hoping that 357 people will jump on over with us. And then if even half of those people subscribe to the Paranormal Portal, then this has been a good night's work, because I always like to give our audience the best sources, the best woo. And we really need to get that channel of yours growing up the algorithm, Mr. Thomas.
I'm absolutely anxious and willing for that to happen, brother.
And I've got your name sorted out. I haven't got your name wrong since we started the show, Don. Duke, Brent. Let's go back to the network, folks. Here we go. See, I told you Greta was told to go to bed. It's way past her bedtime over here in the UK. But yeah, I'm having fun so far. I hope all of you out there, I hope you're hanging with us, because we're just halfway through our woo-a-thon, our paranormal extravaganza. We've got the main man here from the Paranormal Portal, Don, Duke, Brent. Hey, got there in the end. Brent Thomas in the house, and of course, we're just having a laugh, folks. I've got Scotty Lopez here, and we think Joe Joseph may be in some kind of cocoon. There might be a metamorphosis taking place right now. And, well, if any of the photoshops or anything to go by, maybe he's changing into Mr. Sniffleupagus in the background. I don't know, Scotty. What do you think?
I think he's I think bad things are happening to Joe.
Naughty things. I've told him. I told him if it's just the tip, that's where it remains, just been probed. But anything beyond that, or even if he smiles when it's just the tip, that's you're crossing a threshold there, right?
Well, Joe is experiencing an abductee experience, but instead of a gray hovering over him, it's it's the disturbing outline of Popeye that's hovering over him.
Well, that really is a disturbing thought. Do you think he's in a place that sounds like that? He's probably at the bottom of that portal right now, isn't he? But Brent, before we get going, I'm going to let you go and pimp out your stream in a moment. When I go on any show, it seems to be, as much as I hate it, I'm becoming a bit of the Nessie guy. You know, geography. I'm a victim of where I was born. And I often get asked, take on Nessie. But let me turn the tables on you, man. Nessie, you've got Champ in Lake Champlain as well. What do you make of these water cryptids?
Again, it's some people are seeing something. I think it's kind of anticlimactic to think it's just an eel. I don't really subscribe to that personally. I did interview Adam Davies, and he kind of does subscribe to that. And he's of course a pretty well known cryptid researcher. But I don't know. I guess I'm more romantic.
I don't know how finding eel DNA in a loch that is known to contain eels proves that the Loch Ness monster is an eel. It's not very conclusive for me, and I get it. It's hard to really prove. But for me, for any local, that is laughable. It's ridiculous. Right. It's near on. You should be burnt at the stake for even putting a paper like that together.
Well, it seems like I don't know, for some reason, and it could just be the hubris of science, right? Like when they need it to be something mundane, they just need it to be. So they go out of their way to run these studies and find pretty ambiguous evidence and call it evidence. I don't know. You're right. It's a loch infested with eels. You found eel DNA, really? Wow.
It's
And
like if
I
it's
don't
like
think
if
they
you got the
tested.
it's
They
like if
could
you
never
got
have tested all of that lock, even
exactly, dude.
in 10 years.
It's like if
So
you had a report of a white shark somewhere, right? And you went
yeah,
in there and you scooped a bunch of samples out, and you said, no, it was not a shark, it was a salmon, because
yeah,
we found salmon DNA. But salmon, like, are sometimes in the sea, mate. Doesn't matter. This conclusively proves that it was definitely a salmon. There's
yeah.
nothing scientific to that.
Right. Yeah, exactly, and even to the point of some genetic guy out of Oxford, I think he went around and did some tests about Bigfoot DNA and things like that, and allegedly he came back with it was there was a sample that was taken from the Himalayas, from the Sherpas up there or some of the monks or something, and he said it came back as some extinct kind of polar bear or something like that, and I don't know, I think that people know what they're seeing. People aren't stupid. People can make mistakes, but not all of them. Not all of them can make mistakes. I don't buy that for a minute.
No, I'm the same. What do you reckon, Scott? Definitely not an eel, right?
No,
Bloody
it's not
eels.
It's like taking a sample from a lake and saying, "Well, we found fish DNA, so it must be a fish." Well, yeah, obviously, I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. I think that was one of the most kind of ridiculous explanations for the Loch Ness monster that I've seen, and it's like Brent said, you're just talking about mainstream science trying to justify it by coming up with a quick explanation for it that honestly was a pretty lame explanation.
Beyond lame. Absolutely. But you've got the loch. It's I was telling the audience not long ago, I'd found an article, Brent, and this was news to me. I grew up near Loch Ness, and my mum, she'd never heard of this. But there was a researcher called Marty Klein back in the 70s, and he was funded by a Massachusetts Institute and the New York Times or New York Post to come and do an expedition, try and do some Nessie research, and didn't find anything biological or, anything like that. But what he did find on a sonar scan was multiple circles, stone circles in the loch. Now, some were 30 feet down, some were 70 feet down. But this obviously dates back to a time when the levels of the loch must have been different because, as far as I know, the Picts, they were a very, very, very skilled people back 5,000 years ago, but I don't think they were building stone circles underwater.
They didn't have scuba gear?
No, and they called this Kleinhenge 1 and Kleinhenge 2. And like I say, it's meant to be, and by the sounds of it, a really elaborate interconnecting circles, standalone circles. Obviously a very active place at one time. And then there's the tunnels that come off from the loch, and they join into the tunnels that go right under the whole of Europe all the way to Turkey, and it really opens up a bigger kind of question, a bigger topic of lost civilizations and, how the world used to look, when sea levels were different, when maybe Nepal, Tibet, like you were saying there, maybe it was a polar bear. Maybe that was a polar region at one point. It's definitely, it gives you a whole different perspective on what the world has looked like over the cycles.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I think I've just blown Brent Thomas's mind. Don, Duke, Bigfoot. He's going to have multiple personality syndrome by the end of this show. But I'm going to let you go. And I'm going to let you get set for the final 2 hours of this cornucopia of cryptos and paranormal and UFOs. What haven't we touched yet, Scott? We'll figure it out. But we'll let you go now, Brent. We'll let you go and get refreshed, recharge your batteries. Me and Scott, we're hardcore. We'll keep going, Scott, right?
No doubt. We can keep going. We can keep this party.
Look at Scott. He's there, man. He's like that, full throttle, full woo baker. We're doing it. So, Brent,
All right.
tell
I'm going to
people
go get the after party started.
exactly, and let people know again where they can find your work, everything else, in case they can't join us for the final part of the show.
Sure. Just come over to Paranormal Portal page on YouTube, youtube.com/Paranormal Portal, the podcast, every major podcast player, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Spotify, and many, many more. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio, and on TFR Live, of course. We're always over there. So we'll be seeing you in a little bit, guys.
Absolutely. You get set up for that. Dawn. I got no way, I called him Dawn again.
I'm out of here. I'm leaving now, Pete.
Please, Dave. It's Dave on a Friday. Come on, man.
All right, see you guys.
I'll catch you soon, Brent. Yes, and I'll get Scott fixed up here. But Scott, wow. This has been pretty quick so far, dude. You been enjoying it?
Oh, definitely, man. Time flies when you're having fun, dude.
Oh, big time, man. Big time. But you know that thing Brent was talking about, the car, that crashing into something. Like you say, I've seen a few videos in my time where, and I know there's a lot of CGIs out there, right? I get it. But it's almost like people appear in the middle of the road, or maybe somebody's on a bike and they're about to get whacked by a car, and then all of a sudden, you know, they just vanish or they appear over the road as if something steps in and saves them almost.
Looking at divine intervention in some of these cases.
I have no idea, man. It's bizarre.
Are we looking at phasing in and out of this reality? You know, or are we talking about like these random portals that may just kind of pop up or manifest? I mean, you know, and you know, that takes us back to the MH370 thing. Yeah.
I don't know if that is what happened, but it's certainly on the table for me. I'm open to it.
I like to entertain the idea. I mean, this is my theory. I've had this for a while. I mean, because look, nobody knows what happened. So, I mean, any theory is as good as anyone else's, you know, in my opinion, because we really have no answers as far as MH370 is concerned. But I'm of the thought that they were hit by a blue jet, a phenomenon known as a blue jet, that occurs from the top of thunderstorms, because before MH370, you know, before they lost contact with MH370 and they couldn't see it on radar, it was trying to navigate through thunderstorms. There was like very, very heavy thunderstorm activity out in the area that they were flying. And most airlines, if they can fly over the storm, they'll fly over it, because you can have a storm underneath you, and if you're flying over it, the air above a storm there's no turbulence or anything if you can go over it. Now if the storm tops are too high, like 50,000 feet or something like that, then they have to navigate around it. But if they can fly over them, they'll just fly over them. But you get this phenomenon sometimes known as a blue jet that shoots out of the top of a thunderstorm. And it's a very, very high energy plasma discharge. And science is still trying to figure out exactly what it is. I mean, it's a very...
Is that what blue chickens fly on? Blue jets?
Maybe that's where they come from, Kev.
I'll need to ask the experts on that. Wait till I give Corey Good a phone call. Put that on my to-do list. Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy.
So I you know, I wonder if maybe they were flying over a thunderstorm and they were hit by a blue jet, and then who even knows what happens when you get hit by something like that? I mean, it's such a rare phenomenon that, I mean, do you even know what happens on the quantum level with that amount of energy being discharged? I mean, we're
I
talking
just
about
have
a
images of
massive.
that. Yeah, that plane. You know, maybe for the people on the plane, you know, turbulence, and then woof. And like Don was saying, you know, however many hour flight turns into a couple of hours flight, and then you've got an air traffic control tower saying unknown plane. What call sign's this? Mike Hotel 370? What airline's that? I
You mean-
honestly,
you-
that's gone
you
through my
Kev?
head, dude.
You mean Brent, Kev?
Well, I don't know. I didn't even say Don or Brent.
It's Don again.
I wasn't even talking about either of them, though. I was talking about turning up in a different, like, place, you know? And then the air traffic controls like, hey, I don't have no MH370 on my flight plans here. Dude's flying it. You know, he's been called all sorts in this dimension. He's done this. He had a flight simulator on. He went all mad. Dude landed somewhere, man.
Yeah, maybe when this blue jet hit them, they blipped out of existence. Maybe they blipped into another dimension.
That's a nice thing to think. That would be, you know.
Or maybe when you're hit with that much energy, you just vapor.
I don't think you would know much about
Yeah.
it if it's that much energy. That'd be the only comforting thing.
No, I think if you were hit by a blue jet, that's just instant good night.
That ends up like the TV show Lost then, dude. That really does, that now I'm starting to get ideas of the TV show Lost, where that plane crashes and you watch it for 7 seasons, you invest so many years of your life into a show, only to realise that Anne was correct on episode 1. And in reality, yeah, nobody survives a plane crash and they were all dead. Yeah, not that I'm bitter over wasting my time on that show, Scott. Not that it still irks me all these years on. Yeah. Not that I hold any hard feelings against any of them or anything. Yep. So I think they're going to find on Oak Island as well. Anyone that's watched Lost, you'll know what I mean by Desmond pressing the button down the hole. I think that's what's at the bottom of the money pit. There's some dude pressing a button there, and if that button doesn't get pressed, I tell you, when we go to bed at night, Scott, things ain't the same when we get up in the morning.
What if they got to the bottom of the money pit in Oak Island and they found the black box for MH370?
Oh, dude. Dude. Yep, or I was, I can't remember who I was talking to. But so imagine they get down to the bottom and they just find like a chest, and then it's a note. And it tells them, guys, you done this on the last cycle as well. And at that point, the apocalypse happens, and a couple of thousand years later, the Laguna brothers will be back there looking again, Scott. And, you know, nothing new under the sun, big man. Maybe they put the treasure down there in one of the other cycles, right? Weird woo indeedy. Weird woo. Messages from the past. Do you think you could do that, though? Do you think you could somehow, like, glitch or game the Matrix? Like, we talk about reincarnation and things, right? And there's part of me very open to that. We might have a good couple of goes at the game. Maybe there's rules that we don't remember when we come here. Maybe we pass or we fail. We come back if we fail. Do you think you could leave yourself some kind of coded message somewhere, Scott? Like you figure out, maybe somehow you figure out just where you're going to be born or something, or when it's going to be happening.
I think there have been examples of people on this planet or this existence that have glitched the simulation or glitched the Matrix. And I think those people are what we would consider people who have ascended to the next level.
Oh, dang, dude. You took that one interdimensional quickly there. Straight through the top of the third eye, right out to the 13th. Bang. Bingo. Ascended, my friend.
I mean, you look at the story of the Buddha, right? Like, he started meditating and
Eating too much. You seen the size of his belly?
big boy.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
He's all man, not
Hey.
man.
You got to have plenty of protein if you're planning on going full energetic.
Full
you know,
Buddha.
yeah, full Buddha, right?
Full Buddha mode.
If you're going full Buddha mode, but didn't they say meditated for I don't know how long and then just like blipped out of existence, like flash of light, boom, gone.
Somebody in the chat room, Adam Sarah, and you'll know why I've picked up on this, Scott. Says, it's really confusing, Adam and Sarah. Hopefully it's a couple. Maybe they just identify as both Adam and Sarah. I don't know. But it says, what if you were born in a world like Lord of the Rings? And that's the thing, Adam. Because when we start to look back in time and you start to appreciate that these unicorns ain't just mythical, and dragons, and all the rest of it, the bunyips, everything else we hear about, isn't it like Joe Joseph told us, Scotty, that life is very like Lord of the Rings? You remember Max from Germany coming in with the small Germanic people in the little houses? That looked like Middle Earth. That looked like Lord of the Rings,
Yeah, the Germanic stories of like goblins and all of that stuff. No, I'm totally with Joe on this when he said, hey, life on this planet basically was like Lord of the Rings. I think we had different species of humanoids, I guess you could say, right? Like almost like you would say in the Lord of the Rings, you had like humans, you had dwarves, you had elves, you had orcs, all these different sort of species that may have all existed.
You often talk about inner earth, hollow earth, cavities, porous, cavernous. I mean, Scott, if somebody went and lived in those conditions, you and Brent were talking earlier about how the dinosaurs, different gravity, stuff like that, even living inside the planet, never seen daylight hardly, you're going to get pale-faced, you're going to become smaller over time to be able to move about better, you'll evolve, So there's the little the little people that you see in that.
Yeah, and look, didn't the orcs come from inner Earth as well?
So, yeah, I think so, dude. Yep.
I think so, and I mean, yeah, sure, it's a quote unquote fantasy written by Tolkien, but he had to pull a lot of that from somewhere, and was inspired by myth and legend from different cultures around the world, so
he'd have been a great guy to take mushrooms with.
Oh man, he had quite.
He would definitely give you some stories, right? He would definitely blow your mind.
Yeah, but all of that stuff is based. It's got to be based in some truth. All of those ancient myths and stories from different cultures around the world talking about giants and all of these creatures. I mean, you look at the Greek legends of griffins and centaurs and minotaurs and what appears to be hybrid creatures, gene splicing, all of that stuff that has to be based in something. You just don't make that stuff up out of nowhere.
No, I'm with you there, dude. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to this story that's gone on this planet than we're even scratching the surface of, let alone what they try and tell us in school and things, And I don't know why, but recently, the cycles looking back in time, that's been a bit of a theme. And we'll be doing that again later in the month when I've got Bruce Fenton and Mammoth Hunter back on the show. And Bruce being somebody that goes on Ancient Aliens, this time we're going to talk about Göbekli Tepe, ancient technology, the pyramids, and the potential that we have at some point had alien intervention here. Not that I'm really excited about this show, Scott.
No, there's no reason to be excited about any of that, Kev.
You know, when we had the first show with Bruce and Jess, you know me, dude. I'm annoying probably to the extent of getting really kind of like bad. I always talk. I always can't shut up, right? But that show, I think I maybe introduced the guys coming on, and then that was it, dude. I was in like sponge mode. Oh, it was just like Graham Hancock, Carlson type woo, you know? That's the type of woo we were talking. All the good stuff, man.
You can't beat some grade A woo, man. You really can't.
Exactly. You've got to look back to try and figure out I don't know, it's how people can't get interested in this kind of thing. That kind of confuses me. I know everyone's different, right? But, you know, ancient woo, like the pyramids and Göbekli Tepe, and how come you find that kind of stonework over in Peru, and then, oh, hang on a minute, that same stonework's over in Egypt, and oh, hang on a minute, you find that same stonework over in Asia somewhere. I mean, come on, how can that not be interesting? We've all got the inner detective in us, right? We've all got that Indiana Jones in us, come on. Or is it Indiana Bruce? Or is it Indiana Dawn? Indiana Brent? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think we're called to study our past for a reason. Like, there's a genetic need for us to find our origins.
Whoa. Well, folks, that's it for this week's Freaky Friday. But don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to be live after the break with Brent Thomas on the Paranormal Portal. We'll see you there on tfrlive.com. We'll be right back. Okay then, folks. So what me and Scott need to do now is we need to rapidly finish this stream and then jump on over to Don, and then he can have my camera, and I'll look for the link right now, folks, so you can get that. Hang on. I've got you covered. Paranormal Portal. Here we go. In here. Okay, here's the channel, and it'll be starting in the next couple of minutes. So please head on over, check that out. If you can't get to it with that link, just type in Paranormal Portal, and in 3 minutes we'll be live on there. So I want to thank everyone for being here today, and we'll be back for the next 2 hours of your woo-a-thon in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere.